It all comes down to this. College football week number 14. We've been doing these college football predictions every single week since the beginning of the college football season. And yes, this is the final week of the regular season. Now, of course, we've got conference championships next week, which obviously we're going to be predicting. We've got Army-Navy week, which I guess I'll predict as well. And then, of course, the long bowl season that is this year that ranges 5 weeks. So don't get me wrong. We still have a lot of college football to go over here on the channel, and of course we are going to continue to do that until the college football championship game, but we are going to be saying goodbye to like half the teams right now, which, you know, are we really going to be all that upset that we're not going to see Kent State for the rest of the season? Probably not. But this is the last full week of college football here in 2024. And folks, if you have not yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more college football predictions here on the channel. Currently, we are about 215 subscribers away, probably less 200 subscribers away from 20,000. So it just helps out the channel a lot if you hit that subscribe button down below and leave a like. Additionally, on the channel, we have our daily NBA predictions as well as our daily college basketball best bets. So go check those out. Links are in the description down below, as well as our PFL World Championships 2024 predictions in the main event. Brendan Loughnane versus Timur Hizraev for the PFL Featherweight Championship, as well as our NFL predictions for week number 13 that's coming out here on the channel tomorrow. All right, let's get into this very long college football week 14 slate. Again, everybody plays this week, so this video might be 3 hours. I don't know how long this is going to be. Let's lock in. Okay, here comes the first slate. We start things off with some action on Tuesday night, and we go with Toledo and Akron to kick things off. I think Toledo is the better football team, and I think they will win this game. No implications for the MAC championship game. We will have a game actually in the feature games later today that does have huge implications for the MAC championship. But Toledo and Akron, really, there's no implications at all for this. Toledo 7-4 there, going bowling. You know, they should beat Akron in this game. It is in Akron, Ohio, but, you know, Akron's not that great. You know, I don't mind Ben Finley at all. Ben Finley throws for big yards, but Akron hasn't been on the winning end of too many equations, except for, of course, their last game where they beat Kent State. They pulled off an upset against Eastern Michigan earlier in the year, which, you know, the Eastern Michigan Eagles continue to screw us all season long. Well, they were the first, you know, they were kind of in the middle of the season. We stopped picking Eastern Michigan because of these losses to teams like Akron. But for Toledo, right, they're led by Tucker Gleason, who's had a decent season. You know, they lost their last game against Ohio, but, you know where Ohio's at in terms of the MAC. They are basically a lock to make it to the MAC championship game, it appears. Actually, I think they are, actually in. I think they've already clinched. Yeah, they beat Buffalo. Yeah, they clinched. Regardless, Toledo, again, I think they should beat Akron. The spread is 8 for this game. I think they should cover it. Toledo so far in MAC play is 4-3. You look at their victories: Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan by 1 point, Northern Illinois by 7, Miami of Ohio by 10. That's great. Again, yeah, they aren't consistently covering this line, but Akron's just not that good, guys. Let's just be honest with ourselves. They're not that great. Buffalo beat them by 11. NIU beat them by 13. Western Michigan beat them by 10. Ohio beat them by 20. Teams in the MAC have been able to beat Akron by this margin time in and time out this season, and I'd expect Toledo to do the same exact thing. So give me Toledo to cover the 8 points here on the road. They will finish 8-4, and for Akron, they will finish 3-9 here in 2024. To our next game, we go on to Buffalo and Kent State. Yeah, it's just been a rough season for Kent State, and I'll be honest, why the hell is this spread 21 points? It should be a lot more. Buffalo scores, okay? Buffalo scores every single week, with the exception of once. They're a game against Ohio. Okay, I think Ohio's probably winning the Mid-American Conference this season. But other than that game against Ohio, where they lost 47-16, let's look at their last 5 results, okay? West Michigan, a 48-41 loss. Akron, a 41-30 victory, a 51-48 overtime victory over the Ball State Cardinals, and a win last week on the road against Eastern Michigan, 37-20. Guys, the difference between Buffalo and Kent State is that Kent State simply just can't score points. Their defense gives up points every single week, and Buffalo is going to drop 50 plus on their head in this game. The problem for Kent State is they won't be able to score. Okay, Kent State lost to Akron last week by 21 points, and they were at home. They've got to go to Buffalo, who I think is probably the 3rd best team in the Mid-American Conference this season. I think only behind Akron, Miami of Ohio, and Bowling. maybe fourth behind Bowling Green and Miami of Ohio, and of course the Ohio Bobcats as well. They are going to finish 8-4, I think, in the regular season, which is a great finish for the Buffalo Bulls, a team that we told you very early on in the season was not a bad team. They were projected, to finish at the bottom of the barrel here in the Mid-American Conference. I've always liked CJ Agbana and this Buffalo Bulls squad, and I think they're going to perform again at home on Tuesday night against Kent State. It just makes sense. 21 points is not nearly enough. Buffalo scores, and they score a lot. Kent State will not be able to keep up at all, and we're taking the Buffalo Bulls to cover, and unfortunately for Kent State, finish them with an 0-12 record, back-to-back seasons winless in the Mid-American Conference, but Kent State now would have lost, oh god, how many games in a row? Let me see if I can do this math real quick. 21 games in a row. Just basic games for Kent State. Their last win comes on September 16th of last year over Central Connecticut. That's bad. We said Kent State a long time ago is the worst team in college football, and look what happened. Buffalo will cover the 21 points, and I don't think it's particularly all that close. I think Buffalo wins this game. I'm serious, by about 40. Next up, we go to the Thursday night game. No Wednesday this week. We're getting Tulane and Memphis. Guys, Tulane might be the best group of 5 team right now. They might be. I don't know who'd win a game between them and Boise State. That would be difficult to predict. But of course, Boise State, they control their own path to the postseason. And now at the end of this video, I should have been doing this all year. That's my fault. I'm going to show you my projected bracket of how I think the 12-team playoff is going to play out. Not what I personally would do, but what I think the committee is going to do after the results that we're predicting today. Okay, so stay on the lookout for that. For Tulane, they're going to need help. They need Boise to drop a game. But even if Boise does drop a game, it'll likely be in the Mountain West Championship game to UNLV. I don't think they're going to put Tulane in over UNLV, I'll be honest with you. UNLV would have 2 losses to Boise and Syracuse, but they'd get their win back against Boise compared to Tulane, who lost to Oklahoma and Kansas State, and then beating Army in the American Championship game. I don't know if they can beat Army. I think they probably will, just looking how Army's been playing recently, and of course with that Notre Dame game last week, obviously not a game in the American Conference, but still, right now I would like Tulane probably to go out there and beat Army. I still don't think Tulane gets in the playoffs, I'm going to be honest with you. The only very outside shot Tulane has to make the playoffs, I think, is if the Big 12 conference champion somehow isn't ranked higher than Tulane. I don't think it's possible. It's slightly possible, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's the only outside shot I think Tulane has of getting in, because I think they'll put UNLV, regardless of who wins the Mountain West, UNLV and Boise State in over Tulane. Now, what could have helped Tulane is if Colorado State could have beat Fresno State last week. Colorado State would have got the game against Boise, and if Colorado State would have gone on to beat Boise at Albertson Stadium, or is the game in Vegas now? I think the game's in Vegas now. But still, then Colorado State would have Colorado State definitely would have been in the playoffs. Then Tulane would have gotten in. Tulane's kind of screwed, unfortunately, for them. They're probably going to be looking at appearance in, the LA Bowl. I think, again, they'll win this game against Memphis, and they will beat the brakes off this Memphis squad. Memphis is good. Seth Hennigan's good. I'll give you that. But Tulane's just on a whole nother level right now. I mean, Tulane probably has to be the favorite, I would think, for next season to get out the American Conference and probably get into the postseason, I would think, out of the group of 5. Guys, this team's just playing great football the last 3 weeks. Sure, they're beating Charlotte, Temple, and Navy, but it's just been straight shutouts in those games. I mean, they've been destroying these teams. 34-3 victory over Charlotte, 52-6 victory over Temple, and a 35-0 victory on the road at Navy. This team is just playing that good of football right now, and I think Tulane absolutely destroys Memphis in this football game. It's the only game on Thursday night. Tulane's been playing lights out all season. They're the way better football team, trust me. Again, I would like to see this team in the postseason, but I just don't know where you put this team, I'll be honest with you. Again, we'll get to the bracket later on, but I think Tulane beats Memphis, and I think they cover the 14 points, and they will be on their way, obviously, to the American Championship game. They've already clinched that, but obviously, to boost their ranking, they need this win at home in Louisiana over Memphis. Let's go into the Friday games. We have a lot of Friday games this week, just because, again, Thanksgiving's Thursday, so Tulane-Memphis is the only Thursday game. I could have sworn Mississippi and Ole Miss is always on Thanksgiving, but this week's on Friday. I don't know why. Regardless, I'll get to my little Ole Miss spiel in a second. Regardless, here comes Oregon State and Boise State. Boise State should blow the doors off of Oregon State. I think they should. I know Boise has struggled recently. In their game last week against Wyoming. Sure, they won the game 17-13. They struggled at home against Nevada a couple weeks ago. Oregon State, they're trying to become bowl eligible somehow to the Pac-2. They are the Pac-2 champions because Washington State is so fraudulent that Oregon State could go in there and beat them. Oregon State, I don't care. They're not a good football team, okay? They beat Washington State. That was the best game they played all season long. Obviously, you know of their run game with Anthony Hankerson and company. They scored 41 points last week, which, again, good for Oregon State. They finally have a passing game with Ben Gulberson. He threw for 300 yards that game. Anthony Hankerson had 83 rushing yards, and, of course, a leading receiver like he is every single game is the junior out of Portland, Oregon, in Trent Walker. Or I don't think Oregon State, though, stands a chance against Boise. Let's be honest with you. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Boise needs a game for Ashton Jeanty here. They need a big Ashton Jeanty game, because I think the door is left open for Ashton Jeanty to win the Heisman. I'll be honest with you, I don't think he's going to win the Heisman Trophy just because of the way things are kind of tilting out right now. But here, I'll make my case for Ashton Jeanty Heisman. I'll make it right now. Ashton Jeanty is likely going to be on a team that's going to be in the playoffs. Ashton Jeanty has, how many yards? 2,062. So let's just say Ashton Jeanty has 2 Ashton Jeanty games and gets 150 yards. So just say he gets 300 more yards for the rest of the season. That'll be 2,360 yards for Ashton Jeanty. Now, that doesn't break Barry's record. I understand that. But you're going to give Travis Hunter the Heisman over him? I don't know. I don't mind giving Hunter the Heisman, but when the guy's got 2,300 rushing yards, I mean, come on. I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at with that. I think Ashton Jeanty's going to need to have a huge game against Oregon State, and I think he will. I don't think Oregon State's good at all. And I kind of thought Boise was going to do that last week with Jeanty, but Jeanty just didn't get much run in their game against Wyoming. As I'm saying that, the guy still ran for 170 yards, but I mean, he only had 19 carries in that game, which compared to the 30 he usually gets isn't much. But I mean, a good game for him. He averaged 9 yards a carry, obviously ripped off that 60-yard touchdown in Laramie, Wyoming. I don't know. I think they really feed Jeanty in this game. I think they dominate Oregon State. I don't think Oregon State's good. Obviously, they're fighting for a bowl game, but they just picked up their biggest win of the season last year in their Pac-2 title game against Washington State. But Washington State's not a good team. Boise should beat this team. They should beat them up. The game's in Idaho. I think Boise State dominates Oregon State, and I do think they will cover the 19.5 points. Next up, we go on to Boulder, Colorado, as we got the Colorado Buffaloes taking on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Believe it or not, this is the first time all season long Colorado has not been in the featured game part of the video, just because I really don't know what to say. They're not going to get in the Big 12 championship game. They need a lot of help to get in. I believe they need BYU to lose, and they need 2 of the 3 teams out of Arizona State, BYU, and Iowa State to lose. It's not happening. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it is. I think Iowa State's on upset watch this week. I don't think BYU's losing, though. So we will get to that, of course, at the end of the video when we talk about BYU, when we talk about K-State and Iowa State. I just think it's really tough for Colorado to get 2 losses here. I don't think Arizona State's losing to Arizona, and I just don't think BYU's losing at home to Houston in a game that they're a 12.5-point favorite in. Again, BYU's been playing very bad recently, but I don't think they lose that game at home in Provo. Colorado's going to beat Oklahoma State. They will beat them by a lot of points. Oklahoma State's been incredibly disappointing this season. I do worry a little bit to see if Colorado can stop Ollie Gordon, who has turned it up as of late. Obviously, again, Devin Neal had the huge game in Kansas City last week against Colorado. Ollie Gordon has been playing a lot better. He needs 130 yards to get that 1,000-yard mark this season. I think he will get it the way he's been playing recently. 121 yards against Texas Christian, 156 yards against Texas Tech. I don't think that highly of the Colorado run defense right now, but I do think they still dominate Oklahoma State. Regardless if there's, the Big 12 title game or not for Colorado, 9-3 is a step in the right direction. They need a big victory, again, for the Travis Hunter Heisman case. Obviously, him and Jeanty are going to be playing at the same exact time on Friday. But ultimately, again, I think it's a very, very big long shot that Colorado finds their way into the Big 12 title game. They just need a lot of help. And, it would have helped last week if they could have got the loss for Iowa State losing at Utah, because then they would only need one of BYU and Arizona State to lose. But again, just look at the 2 teams that BYU and Arizona State are playing. I get Arizona's a rivalry game with ASU, but still, and then BYU's not losing to Houston in any stretch of the imagination. So, yeah, this is difficult for Colorado. I think they will cover here against Oklahoma State. I think they will. I think, again, Colorado's just going to be able to put too many points on Oklahoma State. We're to the point OK State can't keep up. 16.5 doesn't feel like too much in this one. I think Colorado does put on a statement game. I think it's similar kind of to the Utah game or even the Texas Tech game. I think Colorado dominates, but again, there's just no pathway for them to the playoffs and to the Big 12 championship game. So give me Colorado to win. They'll cover the 16.5 points. As we move on to our next one, we go to the Big 10. We go to Wisconsin taking on Minnesota. 2 teams, kind of playing all right football. No, Wisconsin's not playing good football. Who am I kidding? Wisconsin needs to win to make a bowl game. I don't think they get it, I'll be honest with you. I think Minnesota goes in there and wins this football game as underdogs. Both of these teams are on some losing skids, right? Minnesota's already bowl eligible. They're 6-5. They lost back-to-back games to Rutgers and Penn State. 2 close football games, but of course, they did go on to lose both of those. You look at Wisconsin, right? This is a team that had Oregon on the ropes. They lose. But they've lost now 4 games in a row after starting the season 5-2. They lost to Penn State. They lost to Iowa. They lost to Oregon. They lost to Nebraska. I just don't think Wisconsin's that good. I've been saying that all season long. Yes, I did take them in the Penn State game just because, that's the one time I ever believed in Wisconsin after their back-to-back blowout victories against Purdue, Rutgers, and Northwestern as well. But that was fool's gold, obviously. Wisconsin is just not that good, guys. They're not. Their season, of course, went into shambles at the beginning of the season when Tyler Van Dyke went out for the season. So Brandon Locke's now in at quarterback. Obviously, he's been there all season long. I just think Minnesota's better. I think they are. I know they haven't won games in, a couple weeks, too. But Max Brosmer, I think, is a better quarterback than Locke. And I think Minnesota's all around the better team than Wisconsin. I get it. The game is in Madison. But other than that, I think everything still kind of points in the Minnesota Golden Gophers' favor in this game. Wisconsin struggles to score. I think Minnesota's defense should be fine in that. And I think Max Brosmer in his final game in the Big Ten, at least before the bowl season of collegiate football, will have a good night. I think it's a night where Minnesota, or day, I guess this game's at 9 a.m., but still, I think it's where Minnesota goes out here and shocks a lot of people. I don't know if they're going to shock a lot of people because Wisconsin's horrible, but I think they do win as underdogs here. Give me Minnesota to go on the road and beat Wisconsin. They'll cover the 2 points, obviously, and they will straight up win the football game. Next up, we go on to the Mid-American Conference. This is a game, again, we've been talking about, kind of. We've been talking about the Ohio Bobcats. This is a team that has already clinched their spot in the MAC championship. Again, we will get to the other Mid-American game later on in the video between Miami of Ohio and Bowling Green, because that game will, again, determine who is playing the Ohio Bobcats in the Mid-American Conference game, our conference championship game. But we like Ohio to beat Ball State, and we like them to blow out this Ball State team. I don't really understand the line that much. Ohio, I think, is the best team in the Mid-American Conference. You look at the results that they posted recently, the 4 games in a row that they've won. Buffalo, I still think is a tremendous victory where they won the game 47-16. They beat Kent State on the road 41-0. In all fairness, that's not too hard to do. Beat Eastern Michigan 35-10, and they beat Toledo 24-7 last week on the road at the Glass Bowl. Again, this is a team that's going to the Mid-American Championship game. There's no playoff hopes, obviously, for Ohio. They are a 3-loss team with losses to Syracuse, Kentucky, and to Miami of Ohio, which, again, is interesting to see if they do get Miami of Ohio in the Mid-American Championship game. We'll see. We'll get to that in a minute. Of course, Miami of Ohio has to go to Bowling Green for that game. That's at the same time, actually, as Ohio and Ball State. But as this game goes, I think Ohio should be able to dominate the Ball State Cardinals. Ball State has lost 3 games in a row to Miami of Ohio, to Buffalo, to Bowling Green. They just got blown out against Bowling Green 38-13. I mean, who's to say Ohio's not going to do the same exact thing? Again, that game was in Indiana when Ball State played Bowling Green. Now they got to go on the road to Ohio to play the Bobcats. Yeah, I like Ohio to win in Athens in this game, and I like them to cover the 14.5 points as well. This should be a beatdown, and this should just be a game where Ohio is trying to put together some momentum before their game next week in Detroit. So give me Ohio to win the football game, and I will take them to cover the 14.5 points as well. Next up, we go on to Navy and East Carolina. We actually like the home dogs in this game. They're only getting 1 point at home, but I do like East Carolina in this football game. They're 7-4, Navy's 7-3. Obviously, they still have the Army-Navy game in a couple weeks. Navy's just not playing good football right now, man. They are not. Again, this was a once undefeated team. They have lost now 3 of 4 to Notre Dame, to Rice. They got a win over South Florida, and then a loss to Tulane. Obviously, this Navy midshipman team is going bowling later this year, but they are not playing good football, unfortunately. Everything's kind of fallen apart for Navy. They couldn't score last week. They literally just couldn't get anything going against Tulane. East Carolina should be able to dominate this football game. Again, stopping the wing T is harder than it sounds. Obviously, again, the wing T is one of the Navy wing T is one of the hardest offenses to stop. I understand it, but again, this East Carolina team has won 4 straight games, and they've looked tremendous with Caden Hauser at quarterback. Hauser's been great. Since, again, they made the switch from Jake Garcia to Caden Hauser, this team has been much better. I don't know why Hauser wasn't starting the entire season, but it was the right move for East Carolina. Hauser's been putting up numbers for this team. He's been slinging it for this East Carolina Pirate squad. He's just a sophomore. Again, expect him to be the starter next season if he does not leave in the transfer portal. But East Carolina should dominate this football game. I think they will. Again, stopping the Navy offense is is a lot easier than it sounds. But I don't know. Navy just has not been playing good football as of late. East Carolina has. East Carolina's been putting up points, and I just don't think Navy's able to keep up. And on top of that, this game is in Greenville, North Carolina, the home, of course, of the East Carolina Pirates. I do like East Carolina to win this football game as home dogs. Take them to cover the 1 point. Obviously, just take them on the straight money line. Give me East Carolina to win the football game. This game's on ESPN, really? On ESPN, give me East Carolina to win this game over Navy. Next up, we go to Oxford. Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. Oh, man. The Ole Miss Rebels, man. So disappointing. So disappointing. But you know what? They're out. They are out of the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. No way, no how does this 3-loss Ole Miss team get into the postseason. They are not a playoff team, guys. They are not a playoff team. Now, for my Indiana Hoosiers, we'll take it. We will take it. Indiana's going to get in and out thanks to Ole Miss and thanks to another team that plays in the SEC that plays in Tuscaloosa. We'll get to that later. Even though I still think there's a chance Alabama gets in the playoffs. I'm just going to say. Again, we'll get to the full bracket at the very end of the video. If you want to skip to it right now, I'm sure there's a link in there's a link or a timestamp in the description down below. But I don't trust Ole Miss to beat anybody by 29 points. I get it's the Egg Bowl. It's the rivalry game, 27 points. Mississippi State has been covering lines for us all season long. Did they cover last week against Mizzou? I don't think they did. Did they? They were at home against Mizzou. They lost by 19. I'm not sure. They were 9.5 point dogs. Yeah, they did not cover that game. Still though, they've been kind of staying in games all year. Okay, hear me out. Mississippi State has not lost a game in the SEC this season by more than 27 points. Why do we think Ole Miss is the first team to do that? I mean, again, I've been pumping up Jackson Dart all season long. I can't pump him up right now after that performance at the end of the game at Florida in the swamp. That was disgusting. Now, do I think Jackson Dart's a bad quarterback? No, he's not. Do I think Jackson Dart's still going to be the best quarterback in college football next season? I do. I think Ole Miss should be an SEC contender next season. I think they should be in the postseason next season. I think they should have a chance to win the entire thing. But this year, it's a wrap. It's over for Ole Miss. They're going to beat Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. That goes without saying. Are they going to cover the 27 points? No, I don't think they are. Again, Mississippi State has covered that line every single game so far this season. And Ole Miss has only beaten one team so far in the SEC by more than 27 points. That's their win over Arkansas in a game where Jackson Dart almost played a perfect game at 515 passing yards when they went on the road to Fayetteville and won that one. I mean, what are the odds of that? Oh, they beat Mississippi State by 4 touchdowns. Because, it's a rivalry game. Mississippi State's going to be fired up to win this game. Ole Miss just lost their last game. I feel fine about picking Mississippi State in this one. I don't think this line closes at 27. I think this closes more around 22, 23. Okay? Again, does Mississippi State play the most impressive football? No, they don't. Michael Van Buren and company, Devon Booth, they're not great. But I do think they're able to stay in this game with Ole Miss. Again, they're not going to win it. They'll lose this game by maybe 17 points. But I just feel like, again, 27 is just way too much for an Ole Miss team that's inconsistent, just lost, and Mississippi State has covered this line in every single game they've played this season, actually except for the Arkansas game where they lost by 33 points. So again, if you take out Arkansas in both these equations for Ole Miss and Mississippi State covering this 27 point line, then we're fine. Again, that's the only outliers, both Arkansas games for both the Mississippi schools. Give me the Bulldogs to cover this line. I know they're 2-9, but they'll cover this line. I have no doubt in my mind, though, that the Ole Miss Rebels don't win this football game in the Egg Bowl, but I do think Mississippi State's able to cover. Let's go on to our next one. Here we go to the CUSA. We've got Liberty and Sam Houston. I get it. Liberty's been winning football games, right? I mean, Western Kentucky has kind of just, collapsed at the end of the season, and I believe Liberty controls their own destiny now to the CUSA championship game. We will get to that in a minute here. Obviously, it's going to be Jacksonville State in that game. They are undefeated in the CUSA this season. They're 7-0. Liberty has lost to Jacksonville State, right? Sam Houston lost to Jacksonville State. Western Kentucky plays Jacksonville State this week. But again, Liberty needs to win this game to get into the CUSA championship game. The winner of this game will get in, basically. I think that's kind of how that goes. Again, we'll get to Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State in a minute. Liberty's been disappointing this season. I get it. Again, they're still 8-2, and they still have a chance to make it to the CUSA championship game. But again, those losses to, it's just a loss to Kennesaw State. There's no shame in losing to the 7-0 Jacksonville State Gamecocks. The shame, though, is losing to Kennesaw State on the road, obviously. Right? That's the bad loss. Now, Liberty has won 3 in a row. They beat Middle Tennessee State, they beat Massachusetts, and they beat Western Kentucky. I didn't think they were going to beat WKU, but you know what? Caden Salter and the guys did what they needed to do. I think Sam Houston beats them. I think they do. All right? Sam Houston, I know they're coming off the loss at Jack State, but Jack State's just that good. Sam Houston has a good defense. They can kind of run the football. I think they're going to be fine against Liberty. I think this is going to be a defensive game. I don't think Liberty's going to be able to score. We've seen Liberty time in and time out this season have major struggles in terms of scoring and in terms of moving the football downfield. Sam Houston's that type of team that should stop them, okay? I'm taking the Bearcats to cover this line against Liberty, and I'm taking them to win. Again, we're going to see a very low-scoring game because that's just how Sam Houston plays. Guys, let's look at their last 5 results, all right? 4, okay? A 10-7 victory over FIU. I know it's not impressive. A 9-3 victory over Louisiana Tech, a 23-17 overtime win over Kennesaw State, and a 21-11 loss to Jacksonville State. If you want to take anything out of those 4 games, take that they only gave up 21 points against the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, the team that is undefeated in the CUSA and the team that is likely going to win the CUSA here in 2024. That's what you can take away from Sam Houston. I think they're going to play great defense in this football game, and I don't think they're going to allow Liberty to put up too many points against them, okay? I think Sam Houston gets the run game going, and I do think the Bearcats win this football game. And on top of that, this game is at home for Sam Houston. I think they will get it done. I think they will beat Liberty. Again, if you want to take the points, 2.5, take it, but I do think Sam Houston straight up just wins the football game. So it's going to be Sam Houston to win and to cover the 2.5 points against the Liberty Flames. Let's move on to the Mountain West. We've got Colorado State taking on Utah State. Now, a disappointing result last week for the Colorado State Rams. They could have made the Mountain West Championship game just if they beat, of course, Fresno State. They went on the road, lost the game by 6 points in the Valley. Now, they don't stand a chance to make it into the Mountain West Championship game because the tiebreaker, believe it or not, in the Mountain West is rankings. So UNLV is ranked in the college football rankings, college football playoff rankings. Colorado State is not, so UNLV is going to make it into the Mountain West Championship game, even though both these teams are 5-1. Now, we've always been saying all season long Colorado State's a little bit fraudulent just because of the fact they didn't have to play either UNLV or Boise State to make the championship game. But Fresno did what Fresno needed to do. The Bulldogs are going bowling. Great for Mikey Keene and the guys. And Colorado State is now out of the Mountain West Championship game. Now they get Utah State at home. I think Colorado State should win this football game. I would expect them to. Utah State, they have looked better in the last 2 weeks. I'll give them that. They beat Hawaii. They beat San Diego State. It's been really, odd. They've looked a lot better as of late. Bryson Barnes stepped back into the starting lineup last week. He had 193 rushing yards and 139 passing yards. So, I don't know if Bryson Barnes will stay at Utah State or not next season, but I think this is great. Again, either he's going to find another starting job, probably in Division I college football next year, or he stays at Utah State and contends for that starting job. Because Petras, if I'm not mistaken, is Spencer Petras a senior? I think is he? Wait, no, he's a junior. Let me check. Hold on. Spencer Petras is a senior. So yeah, Bryson Barnes has perfectly positioned himself to be the starting quarterback next year at Utah State, which is great. Regardless, I think Colorado State wins this football game. I think their defense is too good. The Colorado State offense is, they do lack sometimes with Fowler Nicolosi. I do think they still beat Utah State by 5.5 points. Again, the line's not that big on this one, and the game's in Colorado. Again, Utah State's not going bowling. Colorado State is. And I do think the Rams get the job done. I don't feel great about it. I wouldn't play it personally. Again, we talk about it every week. Colorado State is dealing with a lot of injuries they have. Again, since Isaiah Horton went out for the year in that game against San Jose State, I believe he got hurt in. I'm still taking the Rams to win, but I don't love the play. Minus 5.5, though, for Colorado State is the official pick on that one. Next up, we go on to South Alabama hosting Texas State. I don't mind the +1 for South Alabama in this game. They are at home. I think these two teams are very evenly matched. Both these teams score a lot of points, and both these two teams' defenses give up a lot of points as well. Texas State gave up 52 in their loss last week at home to the Georgia State Panthers. Don't get me wrong, I like Jordan McLeod a lot. I like this offense out of Texas State. They are going bowling just like South Alabama is. Both these teams are 6-5. But the thing is, for Texas State, they don't play defense. South Alabama, I think their defense is actually slightly better. Now, is their offense as explosive? Maybe not. But Gio Lopez has been putting together a really good season for South Alabama. He doesn't turn the football over. They can run the ball as well. Do the South Alabama Jaguars. They were a team early in the season that was very inconsistent. Don't get me wrong, but they have okay. I don't think their offense is as explosive at points as Texas State, but they do have games where they can just completely break out and score points. I'm taking South Alabama to win this game. Again, I think these two teams are very evenly matched, but what I do like in this game for the South Alabama Jaguars is that they get the game at home in Alabama. That's why I think they beat Texas State. Again, I think these two teams are very evenly matched. If this game was in a neutral site, I don't know who'd win it. but it's the fact that Texas State has to go to South Alabama to play this football game. That's why I think the Jaguars get it done. Again, you got two really good quarterbacks here in the Sun Belt, in Jordan McLeod and in Gio Lopez, but I do think South Alabama gets the job done here. I think their defense is slightly better than Texas State, and I do think South Alabama gets their 7th win of the season in Mobile, Alabama, and covers the 1 point as dogs here at home, again, in Mobile. Next up, we go on to the Battle of the Bay, San Jose State versus Stanford. I can't believe San Jose State is favorites in a game over the Stanford Cardinal. We're taking San Jose State. Okay. San Jose State last week played one of the worst football games I've ever watched. They were okay in the first half. They had a pick six. They were up at halftime against UNLV. I went to the game. All right, here. It was a monsoon. It was some of the most rain I have ever seen in the Bay Area. Okay, let me pull up. I don't know if the picture is gonna do it justice, but here I only took 2 pictures of the game. But here, this is at the beginning of the game. Basically, nobody was there. I don't know if the picture does it justice. I don't know if you can even see this, but it was a straight downpour. You probably can't see this. Damn it. Actually, let me lower my brightness. Here we go. It was a downpour here in San Jose. It was absolutely horrible. Okay. On top of that, I mean, just look. Look at the crowd at halftime. There was, again, I don't even know if you can see this well, but there was nobody there. It was the most rain I've ever seen, okay, at a San Jose State football game, legitimately, okay? I don't care how rainy it is. It cleared up in the second half. Guys, and San Jose State was up in this game, by the way, 16-7, I think, in this game? 16-10? That's fine. They're up 16-10. Guys, they lost the game 27-16. You know, the starting quarterback of San Jose State, I get it. They had a bunch of drops. I completely understand that, but still, Walker Agette went 4 for 22 passing the football. Guys, you know who's still on the bench at San Jose State? Emmett Brown, who had 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, was throwing the ball at a 60% completion rate, had 1,600 yards. Why the hell did he get benched in the first place? He is so much better than Walker Agette. Oh, Walker Agette's tall. I don't care. Emmett Brown should be starting. When Nick Nash only has 9 receiving yards in a football game, there's something wrong. This guy is one of the best receivers in college football, and he had 9 receiving yards. You lost him. His lead in the race for most receiving yards this season. Harold Fannin now at Bowling Green has it. He's only got 4 more yards than Nick Nash. Nick Nash can definitely still win it, but still, this is ridiculous. Actually, no, if Bowling Green wins this week, though, no, Nick Nash is screwed. Because Harold Fannin gets to play an extra game in the MAC championship game. Oh, that's brutal. That's actually really brutal. Regardless, I'm still picking San Jose State because Stanford sucks. Now, we successfully got that one last week. Stanford covering against Cal winning. Shout out to Fernando Mendoza. One hell of a post-game speech. That's why we play the game, I don't trust Stanford to beat anybody, though. Again, sure, we can pick them to cover against teams, but how embarrassing is this for Stanford? They're going to go into San Jose, and they're going to lose to the San Jose State Spartans. Walker Agette, man, have a day. You better, because Emmett Brown's going to leave in the portal. He better leave in the portal, because there are spots for Emmett Brown to start in college football. San Jose State has the most undisciplined team, and I know I'm going off about San Jose State, and I'm still picking them to win the football game, so take this with a grain of salt. No, actually take this with, I'm going to crap all over San Jose State for the next couple minutes, and I have been, and I'm still picking them. So just realize that's how bad Stanford is, all right? San Jose State is the most undisciplined team of all time, okay? They had 2 opportunities in this game. The second one didn't really matter, but still, it was, it would have covered the spread at the end of the game. But, okay, the first opportunity in this game, were they still up at this point, or were they down? They might have been down by 3. I don't know. UNLV's punting from the 45-yard line. It's a 4th and 6. San Jose State's going to get the ball back. And what happens? Roughing the punter. Oh, my goodness. It gives them the first down. Or they get a 4th and 1, so running into the punter, they get the first down right after, okay? It's fine. The same exact guy later in the game does the same exact thing. It's just like, I don't understand. San Jose State has the worst coaching, too, in all of college football. I don't understand what their coaching staff is doing. God, it's just... I think San Jose State's so horrible, guys. And I don't think it's because they're talent. They have great talent. I think Emmett Brown's a great quarterback. He should be starting. Nick Nash, obviously, an elite wide receiver. Justin Lockhart, I don't think had a catch last week. He didn't. Floyd Chalk is not a bad running back. But their coaching staff is just, I don't know what they're doing, guys. I don't know what they're doing. We're still picking them to beat Stanford, though, because Stanford is absolutely horrible. I like Ashton Daniels. Other than that, don't really like that much. Actually, no. I will give a lot of credit to their true freshman and Emmett Mosley. Emmett Mosley's really good. He's going to be a big-time player for the Stanford team next season if he sticks around. He should. Yeah, he's a good player. I think he's going to still have a redshirt year because he's only played 3 games, I think. Yeah, he's a baller. He's led their team in receiving yards back-to-back games. 168 against Louisville, 63 against Cal. Regardless, give me the San Jose State Spartans to beat Stanford. I never thought I'd, say those words in my lifetime, but give me San Jose State. Next up, we go back to the Big Ten. We got Iowa and Nebraska. Okay. Dylan Royola needs to, get his own personality. I'm not going to lie. This whole Mahomes stuff needs to end, guys. It just does. This whole Mahomes, he's doing the Mahomes, the celebration. He's doing the, obviously he does the pump up before the game. I'm getting sick of it, I'll be honest with you. I'm getting sick of it because of the way the media treats it too. Because every week I'll see Fox or college football on Fox post, oh, Dylan Royola scores a touchdown and hits the Mahomes celebration. He does that every week. He impersonates the guy. I mean, it's getting kind of weird, I ain't gonna lie. Nebraska is bowl eligible. They won their 6th game. Great for them. Iowa's gonna beat the crap out of them this week. The game is in Iowa. Iowa's only getting 5.5 points. Okay, oh, Nebraska's offense showed up last week. Oh, Royola finally had a good game. All right, they put up 44 on Wisconsin. They're gonna put up no more than 10 points this week against Iowa. And I get it, the Iowa defense hasn't been that great. I mean, they've been good. They haven't been, the Iowa defense we saw last year that got them in the Big Ten championship game, but still, 13 points against Maryland, 20 against UCLA, 10 against Wisconsin, 14 against Northwestern, 16 against UW. Iowa will be fine in this game. They will stop Nebraska, and they won't let them score that much. Again, if you pressure Raiola, you get in his face, he doesn't know what to do. He will take sacks, and he will start running backwards as well because he thinks he's Patrick Mahomes, okay? Iowa will dominate this football game. Expect Caleb Johnson to have another big one. They did not go back, by the way, to Caden McNamara like I thought they were going to go to. They go to the sophomore in Mission Bay, California, and Jackson Stratton as their new quarterback. Again, both these teams are going bowling, but I do think Iowa's the better team here. The game is also in Iowa City, and I think the Iowa defense holds Nebraska to no more than 17 points. I do think Iowa's offense is able to muster 24, so give me Iowa to win the football game and to cover the 5.5 points as well. Next up, we go to the Big 12, UCF at home against Utah. Believe it or not, I'm actually going to take Utah to cover the points here. I think Isaac Wilson's out for the season. So now they're on a 5th-string quarterback by the name of Luke Botari. He is a senior out of San Mateo, California. Where did he go to high school? Where did he go to high school? He's a CSM guy. Interesting. It's actually really interesting. But anyways, they go to their senior quarterback, Luke Botari here. He went to, where'd he go? College San Mateo. Oh, he was a Sarah guy. Interesting. Same high school as Tom Brady, if you didn't know. Anyways, Luke Botari finally got his first career start. I think it was his first career start last week. This will be his first career start. He came in halfway through the game for Isaac Wilson in their loss last week to Iowa State. I actually think Utah covers this 9 points against UCF. Why? UCF has lost back-to-back games, and they've lost a lot of games in a row now. This team started 3-0, and they are 1-7 since. They've lost 7 of 8 games. Their only win, of course, comes with a blowout victory over the Arizona Wildcats. I don't know. I don't think UCF's that great, guys. Obviously they're 4-7. They're led by their, star running back RJ Harvey. But besides RJ Harvey, there isn't much going on here at UCF. And don't get me wrong, there's not much going on here at Utah too. But Utah does play solid defense at times. I don't think Batari's horrible. He can't really throw, let's be honest, but he can run the ball. And somehow Iowa started the year 4-0. They've lost 7 straight. They can find a way to still have a better record than UCF at the end of the season if they can go to Orlando and win this football game. I don't know if they win it, but I do think they'll cover the 9 points. I think the Utah defense keeps them in this football game, and we'll see what Batari can do in his final game of collegiate football. Okay? Actually, maybe he still has a red shirt. He definitely has. If he wants to keep playing, he can still play because he can redshirt this season because he hasn't played 4 games. We'll see if he gives it a shot. You know what? This game for Batari literally might determine if he sticks around for the year of college football. Obviously, he's not going to start at Utah, but he could redshirt this year and go elsewhere. I don't know. Give me the Utes to cover the 9 points. I think UCF, though, will win the football game probably, but I do think Utah's able to keep it somewhat competitive. Let's move on to Saturday now. We start things off with the Army Black Knights at home here against UTSA. Now, again, a very disappointing result last week for Army. They get their shot against Notre Dame. It's their shot. If they win, they get into the postseason as long as they can win out. and they lose to Notre Dame 49-14. It was very similar to when Navy went to that game against Notre Dame, undefeated, all the hype around them, and Notre Dame completely took care of business. Now you get Army and UTSA. It should be a bounce back week for the Black Knights. I would expect them to go out here and beat UTSA. They're getting 7.5 points. I think they should cover it. UTSA 6-5 this season. They have won 3 straight games in a row, which is great. Huge wins over Memphis, North Texas, and Temple, and they've been able to put up points in all those games as well. Owen McCowan's been great this season. He has, and they've seen really big back-to-back games out of Robert Henry, their senior running back. UTSA is not a bad football team. I just think Army is able to bounce back in this game and win. I do think they are. I think the Army defense should be able to shut down UTSA because, again, as good as Texas San Antonio has looked, they are going bowling. They're 6-5. They had to, string together a couple wins at the end of the season to get to the bowl season. For as good as they have looked, they've been playing some pretty bad defenses. Let's just be honest. Okay, they've been playing some pretty poor defenses. Army's the best defense they've played in a while, and I do think Army's able to shut them down. And I do think Army should be able to score as well. So 7.5 points, it doesn't feel like too much for Army to cover. They've done that time in and time out this season. Actually, every single win they have this year, they have covered the 7.5 point line. They've not won a game by less than double digits this season, which is actually crazy to think about. I think they will do it here against UTSA. I think they'll cover the 7.5 points, and I think they will win, regrouping themselves, obviously, regardless of this outcome this week against UTSA. They have to go next week to play Tulane in the American Championship game. That's already been, confirmed. Obviously, they still have the game against Navy later in the season as well. I think they will go out here and beat UTSA, and I think they will cover the 7.5 points as well. Next up, we go on to Northwestern, to Evanston, Illinois. You've got Northwestern taking on the University of Illinois. I like the Fighting Illini. Are they a ranked team? I guess technically, should they be ranked? No, I don't think they're that great. But you know what? Credit to Illinois. They're 8-3, probably going to be 9-3 with this victory over Northwestern. They're getting 8.5 points in the road. I would, again, definitely expect them to cover that line. Luke Altmer has been good this season. Not great, but he's been good. He's taking care of the football. He's done everything the Fighting Illini have asked him to do this year. Northwestern, they're not as bad as Purdue, right? But they're still not that great in the Big Ten in the grand scheme of things. This is a 4-7 football team. I get they get this game at home, but Illinois should be able just to beat them everywhere in this game, all right? Illinois is the better football team in every facet in this football game. They've got the better defense. They got the better passing offense, and I do think their run game is better as well. I know their run game hasn't been great. They haven't cracked a 100-yard rusher all season, but comparatively to where both these offenses are, guys, Northwestern hasn't had a rusher break 80 yards since week number 2 against Duke in a double overtime game. Northwestern's offense is really piss poor. How they win football games is because of their defense. I do think Illinois, though, is going to be good enough to not get stuffed by this Northwestern defense. I think the Fighting Illini will be fine, and I'm taking Illinois to win this game here on the road at Northwestern, and I do think they will be able to cover the 7.5 points as well. Next up, we go on to the Battle of Kentucky. We go to Lexington and Kroger Field for Louisville at the Kentucky Wildcats. We like Louisville to win the football game. Guys, they've just been playing better football all season long. It's just that simple. They've been playing better football all year long. Kentucky's claim to fame this year is we lost to Georgia by 1 point and we beat Ole Miss. Well, damn it, beating Ole Miss isn't that impressive anymore. Now that they've lost 3 times, Kentucky is a bottom-of-the-barrel SEC school. The only team they're better than in the SEC is probably Mississippi State, but I wouldn't mind Mississippi State right now in a game against Kentucky if they played, I'll be honest. And this is the grueling Southeastern Conference, where teams lose to California in this conference, where teams lose by 18 points against a 6-win Oklahoma team. I mean, whatever. Give me Louisville. Give me Louisville to win this football game. They've been playing better ball. I get it. They lost to Stanford on the road. Weird football game, weird ACC matchup. You go from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast to play that game. Oh no, Louisville loses to Stanford. It doesn't make sense, but fine. College football doesn't make sense sometimes. Give me the 6th-year senior Tyler Shaw and the Louisville Cardinals to win this football game. Again, look at their victory last week over Pitt. I get it. Pitt's not the same football team anymore. They're not. They won the game 37-9. That has to mean something. They go on the road for this game at Kentucky, get in Lexington. It's a huge rivalry game. Obviously, the 2 teams in Kentucky are the 2 best teams in Kentucky. I think Louisville does enough. I think they do. Kentucky's offense really struggles a lot at points this season with Brock Vandergriff. Vandergriff, and it's not Vandergriff anymore. It's Cutter Boley. They're freshmen out of Hodgenville. Kentucky got the start in their loss against Texas. I don't know. Kentucky really struggles to score the football. I would expect Louisville to have a big night, and I just don't think Kentucky's able to score. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an outcome like Louisville had against Pitt. Just straight domination, and they win the game by 30 points. Seriously, I just think Louisville's that much better than Kentucky. Again, they had the hiccup last week or 2 weeks ago against Stanford. They've overcame that. They beat Pitt. They should be fine. They should beat Kentucky here in the final week of the regular season. We go on to our next one here. We go to Connecticut. You've got UConn taking on Massachusetts. Oh, no, I messed that up. This game's in Massachusetts. So this graphic should be flipped. Okay, UMass is at home. Kentucky's on the road. Or Connecticut's on the road. I like UMass to actually cover the 10.5 points, and actually, the game being in Massachusetts is kind of part of that too. Close game against Liberty a couple weeks ago, right? Kind of their only close game. Miami of Ohio, close game. For UConn, though, they lost by 7 points to Syracuse. But the thing is, here's the thing about UConn. They will win games, and they are going to beat UMass. They don't win games, though, by more than 10 points. Like, look at all their results from the season. They have not won many games by more than 10 all year long. And again, they're getting 10.5 here on the road. Guys, look at their wins. 8-point win over UAB, a 7-point win over Georgia State, a 7-point victory over Rice, a 9-point victory over Temple. The one that doesn't make sense is their 44-point victory over the Buffalo Bulls. I still don't understand that football game. I don't know how that happened. I watched it, but it was ridiculous. That's the thing. I think UMass wins the football game. Sorry, I think UConn wins the football game, but I just don't think they're able to cover this line against UMass because, again, the way Connecticut has won this season, they haven't been able to just straight blow teams out. Massachusetts, they haven't been able to stay in football games, but they were kind of competitive with Georgia in that first half until, again, that game fell apart for them, right? So I actually do think UMass at home will put up a fight. I don't think they beat UConn, but again, UConn has not shown capability of just blowing teams out this season, and I think that's where UMass can take advantage and cover the spread. Also, final game of the season for UMass. UConn's already going bowling. Let's see if Massachusetts plays with some pride in this football game, and I think they will cover this 10.5 point spread at home. Ultimately, though, I do think the UConn Huskies will win the football game, advancing to 8-4, a really good regular season record for UConn, of course, before the bowl season in a couple weeks. All right, we're now on to the ACC. We have got Duke taking on Wake Forest. I don't know why Duke is only getting 2.5 points in this game. Actually, since I made this graphic about 4 hours ago, the line's now -4 for Duke. It's fine. We're still going to play it. Guys, Duke's going to win this football game fairly early. Wait, what's happening to Malik Murphy? There's an article 16 minutes ago. Duke to discipline Malik Murphy for raising middle fingers. So if you didn't see the Duke game against Virginia Tech, the first touchdown Duke scores, Malik Murphy, they score a touchdown. Malik Murphy, just points the double bird to the crowd at VTech. Was it VTech game? Yeah. Let's see. Diaz said that, I think Duke's coach, Manny Diaz, said that Murphy's gesture caught on the ACC network was directed at offensive coordinator Jonathan Brewer. Oh, never mind, it was the fans. It was directed at offensive coordinator Jonathan Brewer in the booth after a bit of practice banter from a few days earlier. Diaz said the Texas transfer let his excitement get away from him, but still called it unacceptable in our program. Is he not playing? It doesn't say if he's not playing or not. I don't know. Just internally. Okay, maybe he doesn't play, maybe he doesn't. Regardless, whoever plays quarterback for Duke, they're beating Wake Forest, guys. I don't actually know who. It's going to be Henry Bellin IV probably who plays, I think he's their backup. I think he is. He's a sophomore out of New York. Malik Murphy's done a great job this season. Again, who knows what's going to happen. Malik Murphy's only a sophomore. I mean, he'll transfer out if he has to. The guy has all the intangibles. He's 6'5". He runs pretty well, or at least he can skip the pocket pretty well. He's a decent passer. But mobility's not the greatest, at least rushing the football, but is able to move pretty well in the pocket. I think he's only given up he's only been sacked like 10 times this season, give or take. 11 times this year. Yeah, not a bad pocket presence guy. Regardless, they should beat Wake Forest this week. Wake Forest has not been good this season. They've lost 3 games in a row. They lost to Cal, UNC, and then Miami. Hank Bachmer's been trying to put it together for them this season, but the Demon Deacons just aren't that great of a football team this year. Yes, there is some, there's question around who will be the starting quarterback this week for Duke with the Malik Murphy incident last week. But I got to assume Malik Murphy's going to play again. I would think maybe they do sit him down, considering they are already 8-3 and they're going bowling and they are playing Wake Forest. But I mean, how big is that though for Duke? If they go 9-3 this season, they should be ranked. Let's be honest. Duke goes 9-3 this year. I mean, that's huge for this program going forward. And we'll see if Malik Murphy sticks around. But if Murphy is still there next year, he is only a junior next season. Hey, I don't know. Duke could be really good in this ACC, given I think SMU is going to be the team to be in the ACC for years to come, just because, again, all their NIL money and whatnot. But I don't know. I think Duke's putting it together. I think they will go out here and beat Wake Forest. I think, it's right now it's 4. I had 2.5 earlier. Regardless, give me the Duke Blue Devils to cover and win against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Let's go down to the Big 12. Baylor gets Kansas. Why is Baylor favored in this game? Why? The way Kansas has been playing, they should not be underdogs against anybody. This is a team that started the year 2-6. I think they're going to win 4 straight to become bowl eligible. And they're going to be one of those teams that is 6-6, and nobody wants to play them in bowl season because they just got hot at the right time. Now, is everybody on this Kansas Jayhawks team, do they feel like they're all 5-year seniors? They might be Daniels and Devin Neal, but I mean, hell, Devin Neal had the game of his career last week at Arrowhead Stadium, putting up 207 yards on the ground against Colorado and 80 through the air, so 287 all-purpose yards for Devin Neal against the Colorado Buffaloes last week. And I would expect Kansas to become bowl eligible with the victory here over Baylor. I get it. Baylor's playing great football. They've won 5 in a row. But you know who else was playing great football before they ran into Kansas? Iowa State, Brigham Young, and Colorado. They have beat 3 straight ranked teams, and they almost beat Kate State the week before that. The Jayhawks are playing great football right now, and they're going to continue to play great football over the Baylor Bears. Okay? Again, the way Devin Neal runs the football, that is tough to stop. I get it. Baylor plays decent defense, right? Sawyer Robertson is their guy, obviously, at quarterback. Bryson Washington is their main running back. That's great and all. They have won, a bunch of games in a row, but I still like Kansas to go on the road and win this football game. Again, the Jayhawks have all the momentum. Their defense has been playing well. And if this game is what I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Kansas is just going to get the better of this team. I just think they will. I think this is an old-fashioned Big 12 shootout that I just think the Jayhawks get the better of. So give me Kansas to go on the road to Waco, Texas, and pick up the victory here on the road against Baylor. We move on now to our next one. Sticking in the Big 12, you've got Texas Tech taking on West Virginia. Texas Tech should win this football game and cover the 3.5 points as well. 2 teams that I've been, not the highest on as of late, but shout out to WVU winning 3 of 4 to become bowl eligible. And for Texas Tech, this is the team that, again, won last week against Oklahoma State to pick up their 7th win of the season. Again, Brendan Morton is a good quarterback. Taj Brooks is a great running back. What has killed Texas Tech all season long has been their defense. Expect, again, another Big 12 shootout in this game. The difference between West Virginia, though, and Texas Tech for me is that I think Texas Tech's able to consistently score. I don't know if I can trust West Virginia to consistently do that. Again, the game is going to be in Texas as well. Garrett Green has not been bad all year long, but again, I just don't think West Virginia can score at the rate that Texas Tech can score. That's the difference in this game. Again, WVU with their victory over Central Florida last week became bowl eligible, which is great. I feel like, is there just too many teams that are bowl eligible this year? Are there not enough bowl games? Hold on, let's see. Let's look this up real quick. How many teams are bowl eligible? Okay, there are 77 teams for 82 spots. Yeah, there's more than 5 teams that are going to get 6 wins this week. There's too many teams. I don't know what's going to happen. Some 6-6 teams are just going to get left out, I think. Regardless, both these teams for now are going bowling. I would assume the teams that have already picked up their 6 wins early in the season are still going bowling. And honestly, dude, are they gonna take out a Power 4 team? No, they're gonna just take out the group of 5s that go 6-6 if they are somewhere, because of course TV ratings. Would you rather have? God, let me pull out a random team right now. Would you rather have who's gonna be barely bowl eligible this year? South Alabama's playing well, so it's not a good example. Give me a lowly Coastal. No, Coastal only has 4 wins, right? Coastal's got 5. Okay, here we go. The winner of Coastal and Georgia State, okay? Are they going to put in a 6-win, West Virginia team? Or are they going to put in the winner of Coastal Carolina and Georgia State to play in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, right? They're going to put the Power 4 team in because that's more ratings, obviously. In this specific football game, they'll give me Texas Tech. They'll cover the 3.5 points and they will beat West Virginia. I don't think West Virginia's offense is able to keep up with what the Red Raiders have on the other side. Let's move on now to our next game. We go to the Fun Belt, the Sun Belt. We've got Louisiana going on the road, staying in state though, to take on Louisiana Monroe in this game. We like the Raging Cajuns, all right? The Raging Cajuns are on their way to the Sun Belt Championship. Now, the loss to South Alabama a couple weeks ago sucks, but they bounced back last week, beating Troy by 21 points. They will likely see Marshall in the Sun Belt Championship game. We will get to Marshall's game later on in the video. Well, actually, they'll play... No, they are going to get Marshall, right? I think Marshall's already clinched, if I'm not mistaken. No. If they lose this week and Georgia Southern wins, then Georgia Southern will get in over Marshall. Regardless, though, it'll likely be Louisiana versus Marshall, but it could be Louisiana versus either Georgia Southern or Marshall in the Sun Belt Championship. But regardless, the Raging Cajuns have already won the Sun Belt West, and now they take on the UL Monroe Warhawks. UL Monroe, again, a team at one point in time I thought had a very reasonable chance of winning the Sun Belt. Unfortunately for them, they've lost 5 games in a row. They are now 5-6. They got to win this game to become bowl eligible. And unfortunately for the Warhawks, I don't think they get it done. Their passing game has been so abysmal. Their run game and their defense hasn't been able to carry them like they were earlier on in the season. And the Raging Cajuns are just the better football team, guys. This is a good squad. Ben Wooldridge is out. Chandler Fields is in. That's fine. Fields has done a good job in replacement of Wooldridge towards the tail end of the season. We will see what happens. I think Wooldridge might come back for the Sun Belt Championship game. So again, we'll see that next week. But the Raging Cajuns should dominate this rivalry game in this in-state game. They should beat Louisiana Monroe. They are the more explosive offense. And again, UL Monroe has just struggled to move the ball and struggled to play defense towards the tail end of this year. Again, there's a reason they are on a 5-game losing streak, and the Raging Cajuns will take advantage. Again, they have been the best team in the Sun Belt all year long. Despite the South Alabama loss, give me the Raging Cajuns to go on the road to Monroe, Louisiana, and win the football game over the UL Monroe Warhawks. Let's move on to our next one here. We go on to, Temple at home at Lincoln Financial Field against North Texas. I think North Texas wins the football game to become bowl eligible. Now, this is a UNT team that was 5-1 at one point this season. Again, a team that we thought had hopes of making the American Championship game, but 5 straight losses to Memphis, Tulane, Army, Texas San Antonio, and East Carolina now has them fighting for their bowl lives at the final week of the season on the road here in Philadelphia against Temple. Now, luckily for North Texas, they run into probably the best team they could run into at this point of the year when they're trying to fight for a win to extend their season, because Temple has just been bad. Their only wins this year are FAU and Tulsa, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Tulsa, right? Yes, FAU and Tulsa, and then a win over Utah State earlier in the season. Temple's just not that great. Let's just be honest ourselves. Last week, they got killed on the road in the Alamo Dome, 51-27 to Texas San Antonio. I'd expect North Texas to put on the type of performance that we were seeing earlier on in the season. Now, again, we're crapping on Temple because their only wins in conference are, Tulsa and FAU. Surprisingly, at the same time, North Texas's only wins in conference are actually FAU and Tulsa. That's bad, I ain't gonna lie. That's really bad. But even in their losses, the Mean Green have looked better than Temple in their losses with Chandler Morris, who again will sling it. He'll throw a bunch of interceptions, but Chandler Morris so far this season, 3,600 passing yards, likely will have 400 to end the season, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, a really good season for Chandler Morris despite the losses towards the tail end of this year. He is a junior, so Morris will be back. I would expect him to hit the portal. I think there will be some intrigue on Chandler Morris this offseason. But I do think North Texas will deliver on making a bowl game this year. I do think they will find their way to their 6th victory here. They win over the Temple Owls. Again, Temple's just not been playing good football. And I do think, again, we see kind of an early season type performance out of the Mean Green in this one, which does mean they will cover the 11.5 points at Lincoln Financial Field, go on the road and beat Temple, again, covering that line in the process. So give me the Mean Green to go on the road and win and cover. We move on to the Mid-American Conference. We have got Western Michigan taking on Eastern Michigan, the Battle of Michigan. Obviously, Central Michigan's involved as well, but regardless, the winner of this game is going bowling. The loser is out. Now, I will give 2 picks. I will give you who I think is going to cover the spread, and I will give you who I think wins the football game. I think Western Michigan wins, but I think Eastern Michigan covers. So both these teams have been stuck on 6 wins for a while. East Michigan was a team that was 6-2 at one point, and they've decided to suck ever since. And Western Michigan was a school that was 6-2 at one point. Both of them have lost 4 and 3 games respectfully, and now someone's season comes to an end here on Saturday, and someone can extend their season to make a bowl game. Okay? Ultimately, I do think Western Michigan wins the game. They're 7-point favorites at home. Again, Hayden Wolf has been very bad recently. In this losing streak, Hayden Wolf has not been reliable at all for this football team. And you can make the case for Eastern Michigan. The same can be said about Cole Snyder. I don't think Snyder's been as much of the problem as Wolf has been, obviously. I think more for East Michigan, it's been everything around Cole Snyder has been bad. For West Michigan, I think the problem starts with Hayden Wolf and the lack of great football play we've seen out of Wolf. Again, I think they win this football game just because I think Western Michigan's offense will be able to get it going at home, and I do think, again, their defense is slightly better than what the Eagles have. But this game's a toss-up. Don't lay anything on this game, I'm serious. This game, to me, is more of a toss-up than anything, just considering the way these two teams have been playing recently. Again, we've got one team that's lost 4 in a row, and we've got another team that's lost 3 in a row. Again, both these teams are fighting for their season at this point, but I wouldn't trust either side to pick up the win. Again, I like this more as an even light game, so don't lay anything on it. I would take Western Michigan to win. If I had to pick, I'd take Eastern Michigan +7, but there are so many different variables personally for this game and how it could transpire. You never know. It's some action between two teams who are 5-6 trying to extend their year. Hesitantly, I will take Eastern Michigan to cover, but give me the Western Michigan Broncos to straight up win the game at home in Kalamazoo. Let's move on now to the CUSA. We've got FIU and Middle Tennessee State. Oh, God. This is just one of the games where it's just like, why? It's just like, why is it out here? Now, maybe next year, guys, I'll be at a point where a game like this that just doesn't matter. ESPN has so many games on their networks every single Saturday. Maybe at this point next year, maybe I will get an invitation to be a guest commentator for ESPN, which I think would be great. I'd love doing it. Maybe they'll let me commentate a game like FIU versus Middle Tennessee. Again, that game that doesn't matter, I'll do it for free. Seriously, I'll do it for free. Even though actually, if that actually happened, I'd want to get paid. So actually, I wouldn't do it for free. But honestly, no. If it was a one-time thing, they flew me out to Miami to cover a FIU Middle Tennessee State game, I'd do it for free. Now, if it was like a continuous thing, I wouldn't do it for free. Regardless, it's never gonna happen. Maybe we'll. Hey, if anyone from ESPN's watching, the business email is greedoplaysbiz@gmail.com. Like it's in the about page of the channel. So hit me up there if you want to make a deal. Regardless, give me FIU to win, but I don't expect FIU to cover against anybody, so give me Middle Tennessee to cover this game. Again, this is the lowest of lows here in the CUSA. Middle Tennessee's last win comes a couple weeks ago at Texas El Paso, where they won the game 20-13. For FIU, their last victory comes a couple weeks ago against New Mexico State. But both these teams are not good. They're both 3-8. They both struggle to do anything all that well. But what I can tell you is when you have two lowly teams, okay, never expect one of them to cover the spread. Okay? I get it. FIU's at home. They should win the football game. All right? Love their uniforms. They're alternates. But we shouldn't expect FIU to cover against anybody. They were close in the last couple weeks. I will give them that. Their losses recently have all been really close, right? Liberty lost by 7 points, lost to UTEP by 9, Sam Houston by 3. They beat New Mexico State, lost to Jack State by 3, lost to Kennesaw State by 1. Yeah, they've been playing really competitive football. But it's something, again, there's something about, playing competitive football and getting over the hump and actually winning football games. So I don't expect FIU to blow anybody out. I think Middle Tennessee will stay in the football game, but because of the way FIU's been playing recently, I do think they win. But yeah, I wouldn't expect, again, the favorite in this game, no matter who it was, to cover this spread. 9 points just feels like too much. Again, the bottom of the CUSA is just really bad, guys. Other than Jack State, Liberty, Western Kentucky, and Sam Houston, the CUSA is such a bad conference. It's so bad. La Tech, Middle Tennessee, UTEP, Kennesaw, FIU, Mexico State. Oh, it's bad. Oh, it is bad. And they're losing Western Kentucky next year too, right? What is the CUSA going to be next year? Aren't they adding more teams? So Missouri State is joining next year. So Missouri State is just the replacement for WKU. I mean, again, good FCS school, but you saw what happened when a good FCS school in Kennesaw State went up to the D1 level, the FBS level, and they haven't been great this season. Given James Madison did the same thing a couple years ago and look at them now. So I don't know. Regardless, give me FIU to win, but I will take the Blue Raiders of Middle Tennessee to cover the spread. We go on to the Sun Belt, Georgia State and Coastal Carolina. Two teams that, again, are fighting for their... Actually, no, I forgot. Georgia State's 3-8. I thought they were 5-6. Coastal is fighting for their bowl lives, and I think they make this easier on the bowl committee here. I don't think Coastal Carolina becomes bowl eligible because I think they will lose on the road at Georgia State. Coastal's only getting 1.5 here on the road. I actually am going to take the 3-8 Georgia State Panthers. Why? They just beat Texas State. Again, make it make sense sometimes in the Sun Belt, but yes, Georgia State beat Texas State last week by 8 points. I don't understand how, but they did. They won 52-44. So great on the Georgia State Panthers. But again, don't forget their little 7-game losing streak in the middle of the season. But they did beat Texas State last week. How did it happen? I don't know, man. They just were able to score on every single drive they had. Shout out to Christian Velix. He had a great game last week. And Freddie Brock, also their running back out of Rochester, New York, had a huge game running the ball last week for Georgia State as well. So with that being said, I think they parlayed that into back-to-back victories. On top of that, Coastal Carolina, Ethan Vasco and the guys have not been playing all that great. Back-to-back losses to Marshall and Georgia Southern. I get it. Both those teams are, contending to play in the championship game of the Sun Belt. I get that. But still, back-to-back losses. The App State wins their only win since October 5th. This team started 4-2, and now here they are at 5-6. Coastal's not been playing their best football down the stretch here. The game that's still really confusing is how Coastal beat Jack State at the beginning of the season. It's really weird. They beat them 55-27 on the road too, which is really surprising. I don't know. Give me Georgia State to win the football game. Again, I think these teams are even at this point in the season, and on top of that, Georgia State gets this game at home, so that's why we are taking the Panthers to beat the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina. Give me Georgia State to pick up the victory again at home. They're 1.5-point dogs, so we don't have to worry about the spread. Next up, we move on to Southern Miss and Troy. Oh man, welcome back to the Fun Belt and to really bad teams in the Fun Belt. Southern Miss is 1-10, 0-7 in the Sun Belt this season, and the Troy Trojans are 2-5 in the Sun Belt and 3-8 so far this season. I don't know. Give me Southern Miss to cover the 17.5 points. I don't trust Troy to beat anybody by that many points. They haven't beat anybody by that many points all season, except for Florida A&M at the FCS. Actually, no, they only beat Coastal by 14 points. Yeah. How do they beat Coastal? See, it's Coastal's fault they're not in the playoffs. They're not in a bowl game. How do you lose to Troy? Oh, man. Troy will beat Southern Miss. But 17 points, 17.5 points just feels like too much. But, the Golden Eagles of Southern Miss, 35-14 lost South Alabama, 50-3 to Texas State, 37-3 against Marshall, 32-15 against JMU. Oh, my goodness. This is bad. This is really bad. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody in their right mind who's going to be watching this game at 11 o'clock. I won't be, personally. I'm just going to make that very clear. Yeah, I don't know. This is bad football, guys. It just is. Simply put, it just is. I'll take Troy. I'll take Troy to win, but I'll take Southern Miss to cover. Matthew Caldwell hasn't been bad for Troy, but he does turn the ball over a lot, which does concern me if we're picking Troy to cover the 17.5 points. I just think Troy makes too many mistakes to cover this line, so that's why I will take Southern Miss. But again, there's a reason Southern Miss is 0-7 in the Sun Belt. They are done this season. Same as Troy, but I don't know. Give me Troy to win, but Southern Miss, I guess, to cover in Alabama in this game. So yeah, give me the Golden Eagles of Southern Miss to cover the 17.5 points, I guess. Let's move on to our next one here. We go to Southern Florida, and Rice USF is going bowling. They're 6-5, considering even the bad year they've had this season. But USF has really regrouped as the season has gone on, winning 4 out of their last 5 games. Wins over UAB, FAU, Charlotte, and Tulsa. Their only loss, again, being to the Navy midshipmen. You look at the Rice Owls on the other side at 3-8. We thought they were getting better because they went over Navy, and I guess, they looked good in the Memphis loss. But the loss last week, man, to UAB was really disappointing. That was bad. I did not expect them to get blown out by 30-something points in Birmingham in that football game. I like E.J. Warner. I do. I think he's got a bright future ahead of himself. I really think so. Right? E.J. Warner is only a junior. We'll see. I think he'll be back at Rice next season. He just needs to hold on. He just needs to hold on to the football and learn how to not throw interceptions, and I think he'll be better. Easier said than done. But I don't know, just the way USF's been playing recently makes me want to pick them at 4.5 here, and I'm going to. Again, just look at where both these teams have been at recently. Again, Rice, looked like they were on the right track, but then getting blown out on the road last week at UAB. They return home to Houston for their final game of the season. But look at the way that the Bulls have been playing right now, man. I mean, again, 4-5 wins, but look at the way they've been winning these games, too. Charlotte, 59-24 victory, a 63-30 victory over the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. That's been, USF has been putting it together down the stretch here. Again, they benched Byron Brown. They went now to their backup quarterback in Brycey Archie. Archie, again, doesn't take care of the football just like E.J. Warner does. This might be might be kind of crappy football at some points in this game. But I do like what South Florida has been doing more recently than Rice. I think they'll lock up their 7th win of the season. And, of course, now they get time to prepare for the bowl season. So give me South Florida, the Bulls of South Florida, to go on the road to Rice and cover the 4.5 points and win the game as well. Let's go on now to the noon o'clock hour. The noon o'clock. The games that start at noon. We have got Boston College at home here against the Pitt Panthers. Give me Boston College to cover the 4 points. I think it's 5 now, but it's fine. Yeah, Pitt's not the same team, guys. They're just not. They just aren't. Is Holstein back? I don't think Holstein's back yet, is he? Let me see. Holstein. Oh, wait. Holstein got hurt again. I forgot. He is going to. Wait, he's going to play? His injury is not season ending. Regardless, I don't think Holstein will come back for this game. I think he'll play the bowl game. Because he had the concussion, then he had the leg injury where he got carted off last week at Louisville. So Nate Yarnell to come in. I think he'll play the bowl game. I don't think he's going to play the BC game. They're not going to rush him back for this one game. They'll let him play the bowl game. But I think at that bowl game, Pitt's going to be 7-5, which is ridiculous, and it sucks because this team started 7-0, and it's crazy because their last victory was that dominant win over Syracuse. And hey, I have a really big pick that I like with the Syracuse Orange later on in this video. We'll get to that. But yeah, Pitt was 7-0. They're now going to be 7-5 because they're not beating BC. I feel very good in saying that. This game is in Boston. I think Boston College gets it done, obviously. Thomas Castellanos left the team a couple weeks ago. Grayson James is coming in replacement. They won a big game last week to become bowl eligible against North Carolina, and I think they ride that wave of momentum here in this game over the Pittsburgh Panthers. Again, no Eli Holstein. That really hurts this team, and again, Pitt just has not looked the same since that first loss against SMU. Something happened in that game, and they have not been the same since. Again, they could have the Virginia game. Holstein gets hurt. And then it's been all downhill since. They were competitive in the Clemson game. I'll give you that. Nate Yarnell played his best game of his collegiate career. But in the end, Cade Klubnik, with that huge run at the end of the game, won that game for the Tigers. And then Pitt looked horrible last week at Louisville. A Louisville team that just lost to Stanford. Yeah, give me Boston College to win. I think they will actually dominate this football game without Holstein in the lineup. Give me BC to win this game at home. They will cover the 5 points wherever you take it. But yeah, give me Boston College to win and to cover at home against the Pitt Panthers. Next up, we go on to Arkansas State versus Old Dominion. I have this flipped, my fault on this one. This game is in Jonesboro, Arkansas, not at Old Dominion. So flip that on the bottom of the screen there. I don't know why ODU is getting so much respect on this line here. I don't know why they're favorites to win this football game. Am I completely missing something, guys? Because ESPN says -4. Hold on. This is probably wrong. It has to be. Because why are they favorites? Maybe I'm wrong? No, the Monarchs are 4-point favorites. Is this not weird to anybody here? I'm serious. Is Jalen Raynor hurt? Am I missing something with Jalen Raynor? No, he's playing. I don't understand this line. I really don't. Arkansas State, yeah, they haven't been that impressive, but in victory, but they've won 5 of 6 games, guys. They're 7-4. Back-to-back victories over Georgia State and UL Monroe. I get those aren't great teams, but they found ways to win. ODU's lost 3 games in a row. Given, yes, 2 better teams, App State, James Madison, and Marshall, but why is ODU favored in this football game? They're 4-7. Their season's over. Arkansas State's preparing for a bowl game. I don't get it. Colton Joseph's okay. I think Jalen Raynor is the better football player when we match up these 2 quarterbacks, just because of the damage Raynor is able to do with his legs. But yeah, I don't get this. This is a really weird line to me. I messed up the graphic. Maybe I just kind of assumed ODU was at home because they were getting 4 points. But no, they are road favorites against. I get Arkansas State has not been the most impressive, but they find ways to win. Why are they dogs? I don't know. This feels too good to be true, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Vegas has got to know something. This feels too good to be true. Because why is Arkansas State dogs in this game? We are gonna play it, but I don't know. It feels too good to be true. I ain't gonna lie. Give me Arkansas State, but this line just doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense at all. I don't get it. Yeah, this is really weird. Give me Arkansas State at home as home dogs to beat ODU, a 4-win ODU team. I don't know. Penn State and Maryland is our next game. Guys, Penn State's not good. They're not good. Indiana would beat Penn State. I feel very confident in saying that. And I'll get to my little Indiana rant later in the video. But Penn State's not that good, guys. They're going to get in the playoffs because, they played a weak schedule. Sure, Indiana did too. I completely understand that. But the fact that Penn State is going to be ranked 4th and going to get probably the 6th seed in a home game in Happy Valley for the playoffs, and Indiana's probably going to have to go to Georgia or Notre Dame is ridiculous. They lost to the same team. And Penn State's schedule is not harder than Indiana's schedule. They play the same squads. Oh, they beat Illinois. Don't care. Oh, they beat Minnesota. They won the game by 1 point. They probably should have lost that football game. Penn State's not good. They are a layup in the postseason. Again, Indiana would beat Penn State. Penn State is a layup for whoever gets them in the playoffs. You'll see who we have them projected to play. Obviously, that's going to get scrambled and get all messed up again after the conference championship games take place. Because again, that's just my projection, as you're going to see my bracket later on in the video in about like an hour and a half, because we still have a lot of football to talk about. No, Penn State's not good, guys. Penn State's not good. They're not that great. They beat Minnesota by 1 point. I've never been high on Drew Aller. I've never been high on this Penn State team. Again, I think they are an easy one and done in the postseason. I think they'll beat Maryland, obviously, but I don't think they cover this line. Maryland, 16-point loss to Iowa, 14-point loss to Rutgers, 21-point loss to Oregon. Yeah, if Oregon only beats them by 21 points in Eugene, given that was one of the best games I've seen Maryland play all season long, I was there, but I don't think if they're able to stay within 21 points of Oregon, Penn State's not beating them by more than 24 points. So give me the Maryland Terrapins to stay in the football game against Penn State. I think obviously again the Nittany Lions win, and that will put them in the playoffs. Obviously no Big Ten championship game for them, barring an Oregon loss, which isn't going to happen. Give me Penn State to win, but I do think Maryland's able to cover the 24.5 points. Maryland, again, goes to 4-8. Their season's obviously over. Next up, we go on to the ACC. Southern Methodist takes on California. Again, I'm recording this video before the college football playoff rankings come out, and you're probably seeing this video if you see it right when it comes out. This is before even the college football rankings have come out either. If SMU is still 13th or anywhere around 13th, that's ridiculous. This is one of the best teams in the country. This team is the best team in the ACC, and I firmly believe that. And they're going to beat the brakes off of California. And it was a feel-good story last week for Cal, right? Feel-good story. Big drive to the end of the game to win them the football game, to retain the Axe, and of course keep the Axe in Berkeley, California. Fernando Mendoza had a great speech at the end of the game in the post-game interview. It was great. But now we come back to reality here with the Cal Bears. And the reality is Cal is not that good of a football team, and they don't play well on the road either. They got to go to Texas for this game, and Southern Methodist is the much better football team. Guys, I really like SMU right now. This team is hot. They are firing on all cylinders. I think they beat Clemson or Miami, whoever they get in the ACC championship game. Just look at the way that they've been playing. I like Kevin Jennings a lot, man. Kevin Jennings does not get the love that he should be getting in terms of the national media right now. He's only a sophomore. I mean, it's crazy. The guy is only a redshirt sophomore, was at SMU last season. He's a great football player, and he's going to be the guy that's going to be leading the charge for the SMU Mustangs for the next couple seasons. As I'll say it, they will reach, I think, the Final Four of the college football playoffs in the next couple years. I don't know if they're going to reach the national championship game, but that's how highly I think of SMU. SMU is going to start getting more and more transfers in, because who's not going to want to play in Dallas with all the money that Southern Methodist has as well? I truly think SMU is going to become a powerhouse. I think they're going to be a powerhouse that is going to start dominating the Atlantic Coast Conference. Yes, they play in Texas and they're in the Atlantic Coast, but still, I think that's how good Southern Methodist is. I am firmly behind the SMU Mustangs, and they will dominate California in this football game. California has played like crap on the road in the ACC this year. They lost to FSU. They lost to Pitt. Not a bad loss. They beat Wake Forest, don't care. They're losing this football game. Yeah, they beat Auburn earlier in the year on the road, but guys, they haven't played anybody in their schedule that's as good as SMU. And yes, I know they play Miami. SMU is the best team California's played this season. SMU is a top 6 team in the country right now. I think they are. Just watching them play, man, their only loss this year is to a good BYU team, and they lost the game by 3 points. And it's fine. SMU's a good school. They're going to go to 11-1. They've already punched their ticket to the ACC championship game. They keep on building that momentum as now we prepare for the playoffs here with the SMU Mustangs. They will beat California, and they will cover the 13.5 points as well. To the Southeastern Conference. Mizzou is at home against Arkansas. I can't believe I'm doing it. I am picking Missouri to win a football game, and I'm actually picking them to cover the spread as well. Hear me out. Arkansas is not that good. Both these teams are going bowling. I don't like Mizzou that much. Brady Cook has been playing injured, obviously. It's apparent. They beat Mississippi State last week by 19 points. Don't care. Mizzou will beat Arkansas. Arkansas leaves a lot to be desired. They're 6-5 in the season. Yes, they are going bowling. I think Taylon Green's going to be a lot better in his senior season. I think, again, they should have high hopes for Taylon Green in his senior year. He's only going to get better in this offseason. But, at some points, there are times in the last couple weeks where Taylon Green has really struggled to throw the football, and I do think that's going to happen here in this Mizzou game. Mizzou, though, it's just, their offense is so weird. They'll beat Arkansas. Yeah, you can tell my levels of excitement for this football game. Mizzou shouldn't be ranked, guys. Why are they still ranked? They're not a top 25 team in the country. They're not. Duke would beat Missouri, guys. If Malik Murphy's playing, yeah, Duke beats Missouri. I'll give you a lot of teams I think could beat Missouri right now who are not in the rankings. Syracuse would beat Missouri. I'll make the case USC could probably beat Missouri right now. I'm just trying to find some more teams I think would beat Mizzou right now. Guys, I think the New Mexico Lobos could beat Missouri. I'm not joking. I love New Mexico, and we'll get to that at the end of the video, or at the end of the slate. I think LSU definitely beats Missouri. They didn't play this season, but I think LSU would beat them right now. I'd consider taking Jacksonville State to go in there and beat Missouri. Seriously, Missouri's not a good football team, but Arkansas is just not playing good either. So give me Mizzou to cover the 3.5 points. Again, this is not a top 25 football team, but they will cover this game just because of their opponent, and they'll ride on to the, Beef O'Brady's Bowl next week. I don't know, in a couple weeks. God, Missouri. It's a shame Brady Cook's injured. It is, because, Brady Cook's a good player, but the fact they have Luther Burden on their team, they can't consistently find a way to get that guy the football, yeah, that's rough. That's really rough. Next up, we go to East Lansing, Michigan. We have got the Michigan State Spartans taking on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Michigan State needs a win to make a bowl game to become bowl eligible, and Jonathan Smith, of course, first year here in East Lansing, and I actually think they'll get it done. I think they'll beat Rutgers, right? Rutgers is coming off that all-time disappointing loss against Illinois. They give up a 40-yard touchdown to lose the game. Oh, that was so Rutgers. Rutgers is going bowling, and Michigan State has a chance to win to put every team into a bowl game in the Big Ten except for the bottom feeders, UCLA, Northwestern, Maryland, and Purdue. So great for Michigan State. I do think they get it done. I actually really like Michigan State on this line. At 1.5, I mean, you can take the money line. It's definitely playable. I think they win this game, guys. I really think they do. Michigan State looked good last week against Purdue. I get it's Purdue, but, they did look good in that game. Aiden Childs, it's always a, learning experience, I guess, with him. I don't know. He has not been great, but Childs, I think, will do enough to win this football game for for Michigan State. That might age well. Aiden Childs is enough to win the game for Rutgers. I mean, if Rutgers does win, it'll be because of Aiden Childs. But Rutgers, I don't know. They haven't been playing that great against, again, the Illinois game's what stands out. Sure, they beat Minnesota, which is a good team a couple weeks ago. Kalamakis won his revenge game. Kyle Monaguy's a great running back, but I do think Michigan State's able to stop that run game, and I do think they're able to barely sneak out a victory here. Again, the game's in East Lansing. Again, Michigan State's going to be fired up to win this game because they want to go bowling, obviously. They got a crowd that knows the situation here. You don't want to be one of the 5 teams that are left out of the Big Ten and not with a bowl game. I'm serious. Like, that should mean something here, right? Michigan State should not be in that league with UCLA, Northwestern, Maryland, and Purdue. They should not be in those bottom 5 that don't play football games in December. I'm serious. So Aiden Childs, get it together, stop turning the ball over, and win this football game at home against Rutgers. Again, Michigan State has no business losing to Rutgers with their season on the line. And again, they were talking about, their season on the line, and, they're fighting life and death to make it to the Boca Raton Bowl. But you know what? It's got to mean something. Michigan State to beat Rutgers. They will cover the 1.5, obviously, as well. I do just think Michigan will be able to get it done at home. Next up, we stick in the Big Ten, kind of. UCLA takes on Fresno State here in Pasadena. Obviously, Fresno, became bowl eligible last week with their victory against Colorado State. Now they run into this game with UCLA. I think Fresno State's got a more than good enough chance to win this football game outright. That's why we're taking them to cover the 9 points in this one. I think that goes without saying. This is a UCLA team that looked really good in a stretch at some point this season, obviously, with the wins on the road against Rutgers and Nebraska, beating Iowa at home. But for UCLA, they have fallen right back down to earth with their last 2 losses at Seattle and Washington, and at home last week against USC. Yeah, again, UCLA has fallen right back down to earth. Ethan Garbers, again, I like the effort. I like the guy. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. He obviously is not the problem around this UCLA football team. It's just everything else. I think Fresno State's got a more than capable shot of winning this football game with Mikey Keene and company, with Mac DeLena, obviously their leading receiver. I usually don't pick against Fresno State. I had to last week, though. I mean, hell, back-to-back losses to Hawaii and Air Force. And again, make sense. They beat Colorado State, but good for Fresno State. Again, extending their season, becoming bowl eligible. Great for them. I am happy for the Fresno State Bulldogs that they, again, are moving on to play UCLA here, but they've already clinched up their bowl spot. I think there's a chance Fresno State shocks people and wins this football game outright. I don't know what are the odds and the money line for this one, but I assume they have to be around plus 300. I don't mind that at all, personally. I do think there's a more than good chance that Fresno State can go into UCLA and win, especially a UCLA team that knows their season's over. They've lost back-to-back games against Washington and USC, where if they just won one of those games, they'd still be alive to potentially go bowling if they would beat Fresno State. I just gotta think, again, locker room morale's gotta be at an all-time low right now for UCLA. They don't have much reason to win this game other than the fact that I believe Garbers is a senior, right? Other than it's Ethan Garbers' last game. I don't know. I do think Fresno State's actually able to win this football game. So there's a big upset pick. Plus 9.5 Fresno State. Sure, you can take that. But personally, I'd say keep the points. Give me Fresno State to straight up win the football game. On the road here in Pasadena, I do think they beat UCLA. And I do think obviously they cover the 9.5 points as well. Next up, we go on to Chapel Hill. We have got North Carolina at home hosting NC State. Obviously, again, the two North Carolina schools obviously is a lot more, but we are taking UNC to cover the 3.5 points against NC State. NC State trying to become bowl eligible. They had their chance last week. They had their chance. They were in a competitive game against Georgia Tech. They lost it. Now they get a game here against UNC. I think North Carolina wins it. I know they had the loss last week against Boston College. But you know, that was kind of a product of Omarion Hampton not having a big game. All right, if Hampton has a big game, which he has had in every single game he's played this season except for last week against Boston College, North Carolina will be fine in a game against NC State. I'm not sold on NC State. We haven't been sold on NC State in a while, if we're being honest with ourselves. Back-to-back losses, they had the opportunity to become bowl eligible in back-to-back games, and they lost both those games. CJ Bailey, against a freshman, he's doing what he can. He's a big freshman. He's 6'6". But I don't trust NC State to go into North Carolina and win this football game, especially, again, with the rushing attack of North Carolina with Omarion Hampton. I would expect, again, UNC to not run over NC State in this football game, but I'd expect them to straight up win the game, though. Again, I like North Carolina to get the job done here. Jacoby Crispell's just been okay, obviously, but it's been the run game, obviously, that's won them football games. We've been saying all season long. Again, this year for North Carolina has been cursed since their opener in Minneapolis, where Max Johnson, tore his Achilles, I believe, or broke his leg. It's been cursed ever since that game. But North Carolina has done the best to deal with, has done their best dealing with that. Obviously, they started 3-4, and hell, they won 3 straight games after that to become bowl eligible. So shout out to the Tar Heels for getting things done. Again, I would expect a big night out of Omarion Hampton, the final regular season game, final game. That I think he will play at Chapel Hill, obviously, right? Do you think he goes to the draft? I think he goes to the draft. He could return next year, but I don't think Omarion Hampton's stock's ever going to be higher. I think he should go to the draft. Regardless, give me UNC to beat NC State. Again, it should be a big game for North Carolina. They don't want to lose to their rivals here. They should be able to go out here and pick up the victory. Give me North Carolina to win and cover the 3.5 points as well. Next up, we go to the Mid-American Conference. We have got Northern Illinois at home against Central Michigan. I'm taking CMU. Give me the Chippewas to go into Northern Illinois and cover the line. NIU's going bowling at 6-5. Obviously, again, they have their premier win this season, obviously being the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Again, that's still a weird game. I think NIU does win, but I don't think they cover this 12.5 against Central Michigan. Central Michigan surprisingly coming off of a defensive win in their last game against Western Michigan, 16-14. I know they lost 5 straight games prior to that, but that's got to mean something, right? Their win last week against Western Michigan has to mean something going into this NIU game. For Ethan Hampton and the Huskies, a loss last week at Miami of Ohio. They couldn't get anything going, right? If they're going to win football games, it's going to be because of their freshman running back, Intelli Johnson, who's had a great season to at least close the year for NIU since the Huskies have gotten him fully involved in the offense. But I don't trust NIU to cover a spread here. I don't. I think they'll win probably against the Chippewas, but 12.5 points just feels like too much for a NIU team that has struggled to blow anybody out so far this season, even in their wins, right? 10-point victory against Bowling Green, right? A 13-point victory over Akron, right? Like, they are beating these bad teams by not that many points, and I do just think, again, Central Michigan is able to stay in the football game. I understand this is a 4-7 team. They're not great, but they're going to be playing for something here, right? I would hope. Jaden Glasser is a freshman. I'd assume he's going to be the starter going into next season at quarterback. He hasn't been great for Central Michigan, but let's see what he's got again in this final game of the year. Give me the Chippewas to go into NIU, and I think they will cover the 12.5 points, but ultimately, again, though, give me the Huskies to straight up win the football game. Okay, we go to Charlotte, North Carolina for the Charlotte 49ers and the UAB Blazers. Another one of these games where it's just, two teams that are out of it, just, playing a great football game. Nobody's going to be watching. I'm just going to keep it a bean with you. And we just got to make a prediction on it because, again, I'm predicting every single game. So give me Charlotte. Why? They're at home. That's seriously why I'm taking the 49ers here. Both these teams surprisingly have won their last games. They both won last week. And yet, normally I would take Jalen Kitna and UAB, but I like Charlotte at home in this game. They impressed me last week with a road victory last week at FAU, and Deshaun Purdy has been pretty good, okay? Since they went from Purdy, since they switched to Purdy, the entire team hasn't changed, obviously, but Purdy has not been bad for Charlotte. That's why we're taking the 49ers to win this game over UAB. The game is in Charlotte as well. They're getting 3 points. I think they can win this game at home. Guys, there's so many games to bet on this week. Don't bet on two teams that have nothing to play for. I'm serious. Because games like this, stupid stuff happens. I'm serious. Again, I never played at the collegiate level, but at least being around the high school level enough, stupid stuff happens when you have two teams that have nothing to play for. And trust me, I've watched my fair share of college football games that just stupid stuff happens when the two teams are completely out of it, okay? Give me Charlotte to beat UAB, but don't put anything on this game. Jalen Kitna could just have a night for the Blazers, and this prediction could go to crap, all right? We're taking Charlotte very hesitantly. And just like this game, Tulsa and Florida Atlantic. Okay, again, two teams that are completely out of anything. FAU's 2-9. On the flip side, you have Tulsa, who is 3-8. This is not ideal. Okay, this is not an ideal football game. Tulsa's lost 3 straight games. They lost by 33 points to South Florida. They lost to East Carolina by 7. They lost to UAB 59-21. And sure, the East Carolina loss isn't bad, but Florida Atlantic is the only team in the American Conference this year that hasn't won a football game. Now they go on the road to Tulsa. I don't know why Tulsa's underdogs in this. Like, legitimately. I don't know why. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I don't know why Tulsa's not the favorite. It doesn't make sense to me. They are 3-8, and they beat UTSA 4 weeks ago, but they've shown that they can score points in all these games. Florida Atlantic, sure, they will lose games, but they're low-scoring games. I don't think FAU wins a low-scoring affair against Tulsa. I just don't think that happens. I think Tulsa and FAU, and again, the one game I remember out of Tulsa this year vividly is the UTSA game where they came back and won. Huge come from behind victory. I just think they're able to score against FAU. I think they are. I think they're able to score points against this Florida Atlantic squad. And I don't know if FAU can keep up. So give me Tulsa. Again, they've scored 30, 31, 21, and 46 in their last 4 games. FAU hasn't done that. On top of that, this game's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'd take the Golden Hurricane to win this football game. Again, they're 1.5 point dogs. Give me the underdogs at home, Tulsa, to go out there and beat Florida Atlantic. Our next up, we go to the CUSA. We've got Western Kentucky at home against Jacksonville State. Believe it or not, we're taking WKU to give the Gamecocks their first loss this season in the CUSA. Yes, hear me out. Okay, Western Kentucky has lost back-to-back games to La Tech and Liberty. If they won one of those 2 games, they would have already clinched their spot in this USA championship game. Now they have to win this week to get in, and they still need help. Now, the way we think things are going to go, if WKU wins and we think Sam Houston's beating Liberty, then Western Kentucky still gets in the conference championship game because they and Sam Houston would both be 6-2 in conference, and WKU have the tiebreaker with their victory at Sam Houston earlier this season. I still trust in Western Kentucky. Now, am I concerned? 100%. Why? Because Liberty was able to run the ball for about 450 yards on WKU. And what does Jacksonville State only do? Oh, run the ball with Tyler Huff and Trey Stewart, their quarterback and their running back. But the game is in Western Kentucky, and that's why I do trust in Caden Vetkamp and the Hilltoppers to pick up the win. They've played poorly the last 2 weeks. I refuse to believe that the Hilltoppers play that bad 3 weeks in a row, which, you know, this isn't the best formula for picking a team, but you know what? I refuse to believe they play this bad 3 weeks in a row. Like, seriously. I've watched Western Kentucky all season long. This is not a bad football team. I've seen them go right down to the wire against Boston College. I've seen them beat Sam Houston, who right now, if Western Kentucky, we think, if we said Western Kentucky loses to Jacksonville State, then we'd have Sam Houston in the CUSA championship game, and Western Kentucky went into Sam Houston and blew them out. Now, for the longest time this season, I always thought this game between WKU and Jacksonville State was going to determine who gets that CUSA championship game at home. Obviously, the road goes through Jacksonville now. In terms of, you know, who's going to make, in terms of CUSA championship, the road goes through Jacksonville, Alabama. I think Western Kentucky is able to win this football game. Jacksonville State, for as good as they are, they have barely gotten by in 3 straight weeks against, you know, Sam Houston's a good football team, but against La Tech and FIU, they barely got by. Don't get me wrong, WKU lost to La Tech, but still, I am trusting in the Toppers, the Hilltoppers, to go out here and win this football game. I think Vet Camp and the guys are able to get it done. They need to find a stop for the run game. Obviously, again, that's what killed them last week against Liberty. I think they will be able to do it this week against Jacksonville State. Give me Western Kentucky to win at home and advance to the CUSA championship game in a rematch between them and the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. To our next one, we go to the Battle of Florida. Florida State versus the Florida Gators. I don't know, man. I don't know what you want me to say with this one. Did I skip a game? Oh, I skipped a lot of games. What? This is completely my fault. I don't know. I'm looking at the schedule right now. I don't know why I skipped 3 games. All right, let's do something real quick, guys. I didn't want to do this, but nope, not that. Here we go. All right. Guys, I didn't know that I completely skipped that many games. So here we go. I'm looking at the graphic right now. I was looking at the schedule. I was like, why is there no Kennesaw State La Tech? Why is there no UTEP New Mexico State? Why is there no TCU Cincinnati? And why is there no... I missed 5 games? Wow. That's my fault when I was making the graphics. All right, we're going to make the picks right now. Kennesaw State plays La Tech. This is a bad football game, guys. La Tech is not good. Kennesaw State is not good. I refuse to pick La Tech to win a football game. Well, they'll probably beat Kennesaw, but I refuse to pick them to cover against anybody. So they are not covering against Kennesaw State. That's for damn sure. Give me Kennesaw State to cover this game over La Tech. Hell, they're coming off a huge victory over FIU. They fired Bohannon, their head coach, and, you know, they're 1-2 since, but they didn't look that bad in the Sam Houston game. Again, the CUSA is so confusing, but guys, La Tech can't beat anybody by, what, 12.5 points? What are they getting? 12.5, I think? They can't beat anybody by that many points, all right? They beat WKU by 5, they beat UTEP by 4 points. They did blow out Middle Tennessee, but that's Middle Tennessee, and I really don't care anything. I don't care about that football game. I think Kennesaw State is the better football team. Okay, that's going a little too far. I think Kennesaw State is going to be able to cover. With Davis Bryson and the guys, I think Kennesaw should be able to come through in this game. They played back-to-back weeks in overtime against Sam Houston and against UTEP. Obviously, they didn't come out on the right end of those games, but they did go out there and beat FIU by 1 point. I think they parlay that momentum into a victory over the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. A spread covering of the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. They got to go to La Tech to play this game. I think Kennesaw will cover. But we are taking La Tech, I guess, to win. But you know what? I refuse to pick La Tech to do anything right. So give me Kennesaw State to go out here and cover this football game. I'm so tempted to pick them to win, but give me Kennesaw State in this game. Next up, the other games I skipped, New Mexico State versus UTEP. There's probably a reason why I skipped these games. I don't know why I completely blundered this when I was making the graphics. That's really bad on my part. New Mexico State versus UTEP. Again, just poor football is being played, guys. We just talked about it earlier today, and, you know, I'll say it again. The CUSA has so many just bad teams and so many teams that just aren't good. Again, you look at the bottom half of the CUSA standings. What is this ad? Is this in... What language is this? Is that in Thai? Why is that on my screen? No, that's Spanish? No, that's definitely not Spanish. Regardless. Indonesian? I don't know. Regardless, why am I getting these ads? Anyways, CUSA, the CUSA is bad, guys. Again, you can look at the CUSA schedule right here. Again, New Mexico State, not good. Florida International, not good. Kennesaw, not good. UTEP, not good. Middle Tennessee, not good. La Tech, horrible. Okay, New Mexico State and UTEP are some more of these bad teams. Now, when you look at the line here, we're getting what? We're getting 2.5 here on New Mexico State. I'll take it. I will take it. The game is in New Mexico, right? Yeah, it's in New Mexico. It's in La Cruces, New Mexico. I am going to take New Mexico State to win this game. We're going to take Brandon Nunez and the guys to win. They are coming off of a win in that game on the road at Middle Tennessee. You look at what UTEP's done. They beat Kennesaw State. But other than that, they beat FIU. Like, again, these are two very poor football teams. Don't get me wrong. Both these teams are not good. But I will take New Mexico State. Why? They are at home, and I would expect the home team to win this football game. Again, both these squads are 2-5 so far in this USA. This is going to determine legitimately who is the worst team in the conference. I don't think New Mexico State's bad, but I did see them beat La Tech this year, and that's why we hate La Tech. Is seriously because of New Mexico State's victory over La Tech. I think, again, New Mexico State will get it done. I think they'll beat the Miners. I think they'll put the Miners in their place and win the game and cover. All right. We go on to our next one. We go into our next one here. We go to TCU versus Cincinnati. This is one of the games in the Big 12. Cincy's been really bad. They've lost 4 in a row. This game is in Cincinnati right now. I'm taking Texas Christian. I've been pulling for Cincinnati all season long. I love Brendan Sorbsy. I'm a huge fan. I'm not going to lie to you. Again, former Indiana quarterback, took over the starting job for Taven Jackson last season. But again, the losing streak from Cincinnati really makes it hard for me to pick them. Again, look at this, right? 4 straight losses to Colorado, WVU, Iowa State, and K-State. And really, those 2 games against Iowa State and K-State weren't competitive football games. Brendan Sorbsy has not played his best ball. He had a huge day running the ball. In the Iowa State game. But can we trust Cincinnati to win this game at home with their bowl lives on the line? I really can't. I'll be honest with you. I can't. You look at what TCU's done, 2 back-to-back wins over Oklahoma State and Arizona. I understand those are bottom of the barrel teams here in the Big 12, but they've shown capability of beating teams like Texas Tech earlier this year. Josh Hoover is not all that bad of a quarterback. I was hating early on in the season with Hoover after watching that game where they played at Utah, but that's probably the worst game other than the Houston game Hoover's played all season. And again, I've been down on TCU all season long because of that loss to Houston, because of the close game against Utah. But really, they're not that bad of a football team. They can really throw the ball in squads, and I do think Texas Christian will go on the road here and beat Cincinnati. Again, TCU 7-4 on the season, Cincinnati 5-6, and it's just been a second half collapse this year for Cincinnati. Again, look how great Arizona is so far this season, and how they are likely going to be in the Big 12 championship game. Guys, Cincinnati's last win was a win at home over Arizona where they beat them by 10 points. We felt really good about that game going into it, and that's exactly what happened. We have not seen the same Cincinnati team since. So give me the Texas Christian Horned Frogs to win this game on the road at Cincinnati, and we like them to cover the 2.5 points as well. Next up, Georgia Southern versus Appalachian State. I feel like this one's kind of free, I ain't gonna lie. I like Georgia Southern a lot in this football game. They're at home and they're only getting 2.5 points. JC French should propel this team to victory. Jalen White, obviously their lead runner as well. They have traded wins and losses back and forth for the last 5 weeks, but App State I don't think is nearly as good as Georgia Southern. I get it, they're coming off a huge victory over JMU last week, but JMU is just such a weird team, and James Madison is such a bad road football team, and Appalachian State did what they needed to do. They are a game away from becoming bowl eligible. Obviously, they're 5-5 with that game earlier on in the season against Liberty being canceled. I don't think they're going to reschedule that game. Maybe they will. Probably not. They could do an Army-Navy week, but I highly doubt it. Liberty probably isn't playing in the CUSA championship, but they could. I don't know. We'll see. They still have an outside shot to get in. Regardless, for Georgia Southern in this football game, right, they are coming off a 20-point victory over Coastal Carolina. They did lose to Troy the week before, which really sucks, but they beat South Alabama. So again, another very inconsistent team here in Georgia Southern, a team that is still trying to make the Sun Belt Championship game. They do have a win over Marshall, so if Marshall loses and Georgia Southern wins, Georgia Southern, again, will get into the Sun Belt Championship against the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns. And I think they will beat App State. I think it's kind of ridiculous. They're only getting 2.5 points at home here. Again, this is a team that, doesn't play particularly well at home, obviously, with their loss to Troy, but they're a better football team than Appalachian State. Appalachian State, we talk about how Georgia Southern's been inconsistent. App State's been inconsistent as well. I like the offense more to Georgia Southern. We know they're able to go out there and get into shootouts and win. I don't know if Appalachian State can get into this, slugfest with Georgia Southern and come out on top. So that's why we're going to go with the Georgia Southern Eagles to win this game at home against the Appalachian State Mountaineers. We've got one more game of the games that I forgot to make a graphic for. Wyoming taking on Wazoo. Guys, give me Wyoming plus 17.5 in this football game. You see, they've covered this line every single game they've played since their North Texas loss. Okay, the highlighter's not working for me. Since the North Texas loss in week 4, they've covered this line. 17.5 points. Guys, I don't know who people think Wazoo is, it's because their victory over UW at the beginning of the season. I get that. This team's not good. Again, I thought they were going to beat Oregon State. That's my fault that they're going to go to Corvallis and win that football game. They didn't. But we saw that one coming from a mile away when they played our boys at New Mexico, Devin Dampier, Luke Wysung and the guys over there, Caden Pope and the guys over there at New Mexico. And, you know, Wazoo's just not that good. John Matier's a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong. The rest of the team leaves a lot to be desired. They are not that good of a squad. Their defense is not very good. Wyoming, I'm not saying Wyoming's going to go into Wazoo and win this football game. I don't think so. But I think they're going to keep it competitive. Again, watch the way Wyoming's played their last couple games. The two teams at the top of the division, or the top of the conference, Boise and Colorado State, they remained in those football games. Boise only beat them by 4. I get the game was in Laramie, but still. And they only lost by 14 points against Colorado State. Sure, the one that doesn't make sense is that they beat New Mexico. You know, I love New Mexico. We're going to get to them in the final game of this little slate here before we get into the future games. But, you know, they pulled out a victory. And you know what? That should give you more confidence in picking Wyoming to go to Washington State and keep the game competitive in Pullman. Again, they played New Mexico, put up 49 points on the road. Who's to say they can't do that here against Washington State? I think they're going to keep competitive here with Wazoo. I think Wazoo wins the football game to somehow go to 9-3 on the regular season, which is insane. Wazoo finishes with that. But, I mean, again, they are a borderline Power 5 school playing in the Mountain West this season, basically, before, of course, the new Pac-12 next season, new Pac-10 next season. I think Wazoo wins, but I think Wyoming stays in the football game. So give me Wyoming to cover this line against Washington State. Okay, my fault for not, getting the graphics around this one. That's the PFL, and there we go. Okay, yeah, I don't know. I completely butchered that. I don't know why I didn't make graphics for this game. Back to this. Florida State taking on Florida. Guys, I can't pick Florida State to cover any football game. I don't care the game's in Tallahassee. I don't give a damn. Florida State sucks. I wanted them to lose so badly to Charleston Southern last week. That would have been hilarious. They win the football game. It's their second win of the season. Their only other win, the Cal Golden Bears. There you have it. That's all Florida State's won so far this season. They are 2-9. They haven't figured things out. Who's starting at quarterback this week? I don't know. I'd assume it will be Luke Kromick. I think because he started the Charleston Southern game, I'd assume it'd be the freshman. That's kind of what we've been calling for, him starting over Glenn. But Florida's going to beat this football team, and it's going to be a beatdown. Again, I think Florida's got their starter, obviously. I mean, that's obvious. People know that. DJ Lagway is their guy, and DJ Lagway will continue to be the guy for the Florida Gators. But back-to-back victories over two ranked teams. Guys, Florida's just played a really extremely tough schedule this season. I'm not saying they're a top 25 team. I don't know if they are that. But look at the teams Florida has played this year, and they've still found a way to become 6-5, okay? They lost to Miami. It is what it is. Lost at A&M, all right? Beat UCF, went to Tennessee and lost. Went to Georgia, or played Georgia at home and lost. So that was a neutral site game. Lost that game. That was in Jacksonville. They went to Texas and lost. Beat ranked LSU, and eliminated Mississippi from the college football playoffs. Florida is much better than the record indicates. They're much better than just 6-5, trust me. And they are going to lay the smackdown on the Florida State Seminoles in this football game. Florida State's not a good team, guys. They just aren't. They can't get anything going, and they're not going to get anything going here against Florida. Again, you saw how many times Florida was able to turn over Jackson Dart. Now imagine getting a true freshman quarterback doing that against Florida. Game's not in the Swamp, which if it was in the Swamp, I'd feel even better about picking the Gators. But still, the game's in Tallahassee. It will be the one game Florida State's fired up for. But again, don't forget how bad Florida State has been this entire season. Charleston Southern, they beat them 41-7. Okay, 52-3 against Notre Dame. 35-11 against North Carolina. 36-14 against Miami. No, this team sucks. They will continue to suck. And give me the Florida Gators to go into Tallahassee and cover the 15.5 points. Next up, we go to the SEC, or kind of stay in the SEC, obviously, with Florida. But now, Oklahoma, LSU. I like LSU to take care of business at home here. Oklahoma, great victory for them, obviously, last week, beating Alabama. They stormed the field because they became bowl eligible. I'm kidding. They beat Bama. Great for them. It was a 24-3 victory for Oklahoma. Again, I didn't see it coming. I think it kind of showed how fraudulent Alabama is this season. The problem with that is Alabama, guys, is probably still making it to the postseason if they're able to win the Iron Bowl this week. I hate to say it, but that's probably the truth. It just is. Again, we will fully break down the bracket in a little bit here, but that's kind of the way I see things going. Oklahoma, they did really well in that Bama game, obviously. They took the ball they stopped Jackson Arnold from throwing the football. They let him run, obviously, and that's the way Oklahoma has been playing as of late. Very run-heavy, and it's been working. Obviously, they don't trust and don't rely on Jackson Arnold's arm ability, which I wouldn't either. And hell, Arnold, for as much hate as he gets, he's only a sophomore. He'll be back, and I think he will improve down the stretch of his college career here. But I think LSU is going to stop this run. I think Garrett Newsomer and LSU should be able to throw the ball all over Oklahoma in this football game. I get it. Oklahoma shut down Alabama. But again, it's much different playing that game in Norman to where, all right, now you got to go on the road and play in Baton Rouge. Yeah. Again, LSU has not been impressive all season long. Again, they're 7-4. They're a team that was once ranked, lost 3 in a row to A&M, Bama, and Florida. But they, again, won a game that I didn't think they were going to win against Vanderbilt. Okay, they went out there and won the game by 7 points. Now they get Oklahoma at home. I think LSU should take care of business and win this football game. I trust in Newsomer to have a big night. I think LSU is going to throw the ball up and down the field against Oklahoma, and I do expect them to go out here and win it. 6 points doesn't feel like too much. They beat Vandy by 7 points last week. Earlier in the season, they beat Arkansas on the road in Fayetteville by 24. I get Arkansas is not the best, but I do trust in LSU's ability to go out here and win this game against Oklahoma. An Oklahoma team that's riding the highs of beating Alabama last week. They're already going bowling. They don't need to extend their season anymore. I think LSU will catch them here. I think Louisiana State wins this football game, and they will cover the 6 points as well. Next up, we go on to the Battle of Nevada. We have got Nevada taking on UNLV. Again, I just watched UNLV last week. I got to see Hodge, Malik Williams, and the guys over there at UNLV, and a very shaky first half for the Rebels. The second half, much improved, obviously went out there and took care of business. You know, UNLV was able to complete a pass, something that San Jose State wasn't able to do. And now you get the 24th ranked team in UNLV. I assume they go up, but UNLV gets Nevada. They should be able to dominate this Nevada squad that is 3-9, hasn't won a football game since their win over the Oregon State Beavers. Yeah, I don't really like Nevada that much. Brendan Lewis is their entire team. UNLV is just the much better squad. I mean, they had a huge game, their last one, out of Jaden Thomas, who now has 700 rushing yards this season, but they have so many guys who can run the football. You get Jaden Thomas, you also get their other back in, who is it? Hodge Williams obviously can run as well, but you also get Burrell as well, Greg Burrell, who can carry the ball as well, who's a freshman. I mean, UNLV's got all these different guys. Obviously, again, they'll run their little end arounds to DeJesus, and Ricky White's obviously always going to be involved in the passing game as well, but that's just how the go-go offense works, obviously, with UNLV. I'd expect UNLV to win this football game, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close. Again, UNLV needs to win this football game to advance to the Mountain West Championship. If they don't, I believe, Colorado State immediately gets inserted back into the spot, but UNLV should be able to win this football game. I'm not concerned. Again, their only losses this season are a 5-point loss to Boise State and a 3-point loss to Syracuse. And again, we have a pick that we really like with Syracuse later on in the video that we'll talk about in a minute. Actually, more than a minute, but still. I think UNLV gets the job done. I like Hodge and Malik Williams. I like this offense. Their defense really buckled down in the second half of that San Jose State game, and they don't got to play in, a monsoon like they did in that San Jose game. They're back at Allegiant Stadium. I like UNLV to win this football game. Nevada leaves a lot to be desired. Brendan Lewis literally does everything. He leads their team in rushing, obviously leads their team in passing as well. They don't have much else other than Brendan Lewis. Trust me, I've watched Nevada a lot this season. They are so one-dimensional with Lewis. Even again, when they're so one-dimensional centered around the quarterback position. Like, even again, in their win over, even when Lewis didn't play, when Chuba Purdy had to come in, it was all Chuba Purdy in that game, running the football, throwing the football. Yeah, Nevada's not that good. Their offense just is not a winning formula. Give me UNLV to win this game at home in this little battle of Nevada. Next up, we go to the Battle of Virginia. Virginia Tech hosts Virginia here in Blacksburg, Virginia, and we like the Hokies to cover the 7.5 points. Both these teams looking to become bowl eligible this week, and I think Virginia Tech will get it done. Virginia Tech has looked better throughout the course of the season. I understand, again, recently it's been bad. I believe William Watson will be getting the start this week, if I'm not mistaken. Is Kyron Jones playing or not this week? Let's check. Kyron Jones is still injured. Did not play last week. I doubt he'll play this week. So it'll likely be William Watson III, the freshman out of Springfield, Massachusetts, getting the start here against Virginia. That's fine. They're the way better team than Virginia. Virginia, 3-4 this year in the ACC, but look at their wins in the ACC. Wake Forest, Boston College, not a bad win at all. That one still doesn't make sense to me. And then beating Pitt after they, took Eli Holstein out the game with the helmet-to-helmet hit. Virginia's not that good. They're just not, okay? Calandria will have his nights. He will. But I can't consistently depend on Virginia to win football games because they win with their defense. And it's just, I don't know. Their offense really struggles a lot. Virginia Tech should be able to score, even without Kyron Jones, if it is William Watson III playing. I think they are able to win this football game. But again, don't lay anything on this football game. Why? Both these teams are 5-6. Both these teams have had multiple opportunities to become bowl eligible. And look where they're both at the end of the season. They're both 5-6, and they're playing each other for a chance to get into a bowl game. I think the Tech's the better team. I truly think they are. I like what what they're able to do with Bashal Tootin and whatnot. Tootin, I think, should have a big day. I like their star receiver as well, or best receiver, I guess, in Ali Jennings. Ali Jennings, I mean, he hasn't had a big year, actually. Yeah, actually, last week was his first big week of the year, actually. Oh, my goodness. Regardless, I know Jennings was supposed to be, somewhat hyped up going into the season. I remember I think he's like an 83 overall in the college football game. Regardless, I think Bashal Tootin's going to have a big day. I think we see a good game out of William Watson III in his first official start, and I do think they win this rivalry game here against Virginia. I would not bet the -7, though. I think this game's close. I think they will cover it. But I don't know. I think that's too close to call for me. I wouldn't take the spread on this game at all. I do like VTech to win it, but the spread is, I think, really difficult. It's going to be Virginia Tech to win. I will take them to cover, but I don't love that one. Next up, we move on to James Madison and Marshall. So a huge game for the the Sun Belt Championship game, because we think Georgia Southern's winning their football game this week, right? Said it earlier, we think Georgia Southern is going to beat App State at home. I don't know why they're only getting 2.5 points in Statesboro, Georgia. Now you get James Madison and Marshall. This game is, I believe, after Georgia Southern. So yes, Marshall's going to know what they need. They need to win this football game to get into the Sun Belt Championship game to play Louisiana. If they lose, and we expect Georgia Southern to win, Georgia Southern will be the ones playing Louisiana in the Sun Belt title game. Marshall's not a bad team at all, right? Their only loss again in the conference is Georgia Southern, and I would expect them to beat James Madison. Again, though, it is much different playing James Madison at home than it is on the road. It is tough to beat this team at JMU. I completely understand it. But JMU has just been too inconsistent for my liking, and that's why we are taking Marshall to win. I butchered the graphic, I'm not going to lie. We have -3.5. It should be +3.5. I like Marshall to go in here and win the football game. I cannot consistently depend on James Madison anymore. Guys, they lost to Appalachian State last week. I get it. They're a much worse team on the road than they are at home. But all around, I just think Marshall's the better team. I think they are. I like Braylon Braxton. Braylon Braxton's played great football this season. I'm not going to pick against the team, though, again, that has not lost when Braylon Braxton has started this season. The only games they lost all year is when Stone Earl started. When Braylon Braxton has played, Marshall is undefeated this season. I think they remain undefeated. I think they do go out here and beat JMU. I know, again, it's a tough ask to go on the road and beat the Dukes, but I do think they do it. I do think Braylon Braxton, again, last week against ODU, 210 passing yards and 140 rushing yards. The guy can do it all. I expect Marshall to go in here to clinch their spot in the Sun Belt Championship game, marking them in Louisiana next week. I think Marshall gets the job done. Remember the herd. They will go to JMU. They will cover the 3.5 points, and they will win outright as well. Next up, we go to Provo, Utah. Brigham Young versus Houston. Believe it or not, BYU still has a lot to play for. If Iowa State or Arizona State lose, Brigham Young, with a win over Houston, is the next team into the Big 12 championship game. I think they will win this game, and we will get to the Iowa State K-State game in a little bit. Give me Brigham Young to beat Houston. I think that goes without saying. Houston is not that good of a football team this season. They are 4-7. Arizona's been horrible all year long, and Arizona blew out Houston 27-3. Okay? It's Zion Chris is now the quarterback. He turns the ball over a lot. It doesn't matter. They, switched Donovan. They went from Donovan Smith to Zion Chris. They both throw a bunch of interceptions. Houston's offense can never get anything going, and that's the thing. BYU will be able to score. I don't think Houston's going to be able to put up points. I trust in the BYU defense to honestly not let Houston score more than 7 points in this football game. I'm serious. 10's the max. I would think the Cougars are able to score in this game. BYU should be able to have their way. This is a game they need to get their offense back on track again. If they are going to play in the Big 12 championship game, they need this victory here with Jake Retzlaff and the guys, and I think they will get it. Again, BYU's fate is not in their hands, obviously. I think the more likely loss is obviously Iowa State losing to K-State rather than ASU losing at Arizona. I don't think many people anticipate ASU to have trouble this week at Arizona, but still, who knows? I think BYU wins the football game. I think at home, again, they are able to beat Houston. They are getting 12.5 points, and I'd expect them to go out here and finish the job. Again, Houston's just not a good football team this year. BYU's better. They should be able to win it at home in Provo. Next up, we go to the Mountain West for 2 more games here before we get into the feature games. We have got San Diego State taking on Air Force. Give me Air Force to cover the 3.5 points. San Diego State, guys, is just so bad. They are not a good football team. Air Force is peaking at the right time. Again, too late, obviously. They're going to be 5-7 with the victory here. But they've won their last 3 games, right? A 36-28 victory over Fresno State, a 28-0 victory over Oregon State, a 22-19 victory on the road last week at Nevada. Now here they are against SDSU, a San Diego State team who has lost 5 games in a row after at one point being in first place in the Mountain West, being 2-0 with a 3-3 record. They won back-to-back games against Hawaii and Wyoming, and then they proceeded to lose 5 in a row against Wazoo, Boise State, our guys at New Mexico, UNLV, and Utah State. San Diego State again, they're losing to Utah State, guys. This is not a good football team. I've been against picking San Diego State all season long. I think Danny O'Neal's a very mediocre quarterback, if I'm being honest. I think Marquez Cooper's a really good running back in his senior season. Again, Danny O'Neal's only a freshman, so again, he's going to get better, but I don't think Danny O'Neal's a winning quarterback right now. Marquez Cooper's great, don't get me wrong, but besides Marquez Cooper, San Diego State doesn't really have anything. I get they get this game at home, but Air Force has just been playing better football. It's that simple. Air Force is going to run this ball right down San Diego State's throat, and they're going to win the football game. So give me the Air Force Falcons to win this game at Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego, and they will cover the 3.5 points as well. We go into our final game before the features. UNM, New Mexico, I've been calling for it. They have a chance to become bowl eligible. This is the team you want to watch in December. This is a fun team. I love watching the New Mexico Lobos. Please take care of business at Hawaii. They are taking on a 4-7 Hawaii team. They better not lose this football game, man. We are nuking New Mexico minus 2.5. You have had 2 weeks to prepare for Hawaii. Devin Dampier is a very good quarterback and one of the best freshman quarterbacks in college football right now. I will say that. Not just because I have a dynasty on NCAA 25 where I made Devin Dampier literally the Heisman. But no, he's the man. I love Devin Dampier. Great dual threat guy. He is going to be a problem in the Mountain West if he decides to stick around New Mexico. I would anticipate him to be back next year with New Mexico, but Devin Dampier is a monster. He can throw, he can run. He's a great quarterback. He scored the game-winning touchdown 2 weeks ago at home against ranked number 18th Wazoo. They play Hawaii this week. Now, I get it. Hawaii's a much different team at home because teams have to go all the way to Honolulu to play them. Then when Hawaii's got to go stateside. I get that. But Hawaii's last game, man, was an embarrassment on the road to Utah State. 55-10 against the Aggies. I don't know what happened to Braden Shager. Shager's great. He throws too many interceptions at points, but he's the guy who will take over games for the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors that will win them football games. Still, though, I'm taking Devin Dampier and the New Mexico Lobos to win a shootout because that's what this game is, guys. It's nothing but a shootout. New Mexico, I watched them time in and time out this season. They have the worst tackling in all of college football. Okay, their secondary can't tackle. Sometimes they get stops, but they're really bad. This is a shootout. Braden Shager should have a day. Devin Dampier will have a day. This is going to be a fun final game here on Saturday night at 8 p.m. from Hawaii, and I think the New Mexico Lobos get the job done. Give me the Lobos to go to Hawaii, win the football game, and finally, the Lobos, after starting the year 0-4, are bowl eligible. They lose to Montana State week 1. They lose to Arizona, lose to Auburn, lose to Fresno State, but put together 6 wins, including a win over a ranked Wazoo team. Even though Wazoo is not very good, but New Mexico is good. Give me the New Mexico Lobos to win this game, go to Hawaii and pick up the W, and now we can start looking at next season for New Mexico. Obviously, they have a bowl game, but that's only going to help them. I really like that New Mexico gets a shot to play another game, extend their season by a little bit, and again, I think this team's going to be a lot better next season with Devin Dampier only becoming a better football player. He's a sophomore next year. I'm so high on the New Mexico Lobos. I think they will beat Hawaii. I will hammer this. Minus 2.5. New Mexico goes on the road and beats the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Okay, let's go on to the feature games. And yes, we are showing some love to the Mid-American Conference because this is a big game for them. It is. This is probably the biggest MAC game all year. We have got the Miami of Ohio Redhawks taking on Bowling Green, 9 a.m. on Friday morning. Bowling Green takes on Miami. We are siding with the Bowling Green Falcons to win this football game. They're the better team. They just are, and they are the hotter team going into this. Actually, no, both these teams are on fire right now. I'm not going to lie. Both these teams are 6-1 in the Mid-American Conference. Bowling Green has a loss to Northern Illinois earlier this year, 17-7, and Miami of Ohio has a loss to Toledo on the road by 10 points. Okay. I just think Bowling Green's got better personnel in all fairness. I just think they do. Connor Bazelak, if we compare these two teams, I'm taking Connor Bazelak over Brett Gabbert. I am. Terrion Stewart and Keon Mosey, they're kind of about the same, I think. But obviously, I think the game changer in this game is the man who currently leads all of college football in receiving yards, and that is the Bowling Green Falcons tight end in Harold Fannin Jr., 1,300 receiving yards. He gets targeted the most out of any tight end in college football. The man's a monster. He has led Bowling Green receiving yards every single game other than their one loss. The junior out of Canton, Ohio is an absolute stud. And that's honestly why I've been swayed to pick Bowling Green, because of their pass game and because of Harold Fannin. Miami of Ohio has been playing really well recently. Same with Bowling Green. I'm not going to dispute that either team's been playing bad recently. I just think Bowling Green's got a slightly better defense, and I do like the production we get out of Harold Fannin. Again, I do think Bazelak is slightly better than Brett Gabbert. I think he's slightly better. And just what Bowling Green's been able to do with their run game, I mean, I get it. Mosey's really good for Miami of Ohio, but, Terrion Stewart's really good as well for Bowling Green. I mean, this is a great football game. I think it is. These are two really good teams in the Mid-American Conference. Obviously, again, the winner will take on Ohio as long as the Bobcats are able to go out there and beat the Ball State Cardinals. But yeah, both these teams have not played, Miami of Ohio played Ohio this year. They already beat them. However, I think they're going to be the ones on the outside looking in. Obviously, all three of Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green, and Ohio have one loss. But by way of Miami of Ohio and Bowling Green playing each other, Ohio has basically clinched a spot in the championship game as long as they can beat Ball State on Friday. And I'd expect that to happen. Again, both this game and the Ohio-Ball State game are at the same exact time on Friday. So we'll get to know who's in the Mid-American Championship game about noon on Friday. And I think it will be the Bowling Green Falcons and the Ohio Bobcats. Again, I think they're going to have a huge day. The one game they lost in the MAC, they just got shut down by that NIU defense. Since then, Bowling Green has not lost a game, and their defense has not given up many points since they, again, even in the NIU loss, their defense only gave up 17 points. The offense just scored 7. I like the defense out of Bowling Green. I like the passing attack with, again, Bazelak and Harold Fannin Jr. So give me the Bowling Green Falcons to advance to the MAC championship game against the Ohio Bobcats, defeating the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. Next up, we move on to Georgia versus Georgia Tech, the biggest game on Friday night from Athens. I kid you not, the get-in price to this game in Athens, Georgia is $4,000. What the hell? No, it's $200. I don't know why on ESPN it shows up as the get-in price being $4,000. It's really $200, which I think is kind of crazy. I don't know why they have that up there. But regardless, Georgia should beat the brakes off of Georgia Tech, I think. Now, this game might be closer than you think, so I think Georgia Tech might cover. I'll take them to cover, but Georgia should not have a problem beating Georgia Tech in this football game. Again, we have seen Georgia play poorly this season, but both those games were on the road. Ole Miss was on the road. Alabama was on the road. I think the Georgia Bulldogs are an extremely tough team to beat once you get to Athens. I think they are. I'm taking them to beat Georgia Tech, even though, again, yes, Georgia Tech has gone out the last couple weeks. They have picked up huge victories, right? They beat Miami. They beat NC State. They are now 7-4. This Georgia Tech team has been playing exceptionally well without Haynes King in the lineup. Obviously, now it is Aaron Philo at the starting quarterback position for them. And Philo, again, can do some damage with his legs, but primarily it has been the ground attack with guys like Jamal Haynes that has won them football games. But actually, no, recently it hasn't been Haynes. It's really just been, I guess, Philo had a big passing game against NC State. He did in the Miami game. But I think Georgia should dominate. Again, it's a whole different animal once you got to go to Athens. I'll be honest with you. Again, Georgia Tech can look good against Miami and NC State, two ACC teams they're playing at home. But now you walk into the monster. You walk into Athens, Georgia. I just don't think it's going to go too well for Georgia Tech. I think they're going to get dominated on the line, I'll be honest with you. I think the front seven for Georgia is much better than anything Georgia Tech's going to offer them on the other side of the football. Carson Beck, for as poor of a season as he has played, he has gotten it together in the last couple weeks. And it looks like, again, Carson Beck is going to be well equipped to make a playoff run. Obviously, again, Georgia will not be in the SEC championship game, but it looks like they're pretty much a lock to make the playoffs as long as they can go out and beat Georgia Tech. I would expect them to get the job done. Frazier and Etienne have been good in the run game as well. It's been more of Frazier recently, but I would expect Georgia to absolutely dominate this football game against Georgia Tech. I just don't think Georgia Tech's going to be able to get this run game going because of the pressure and because, again, of what Georgia's going to offer on that front line. Give me the Georgia Bulldogs to take care of business at home in Athens over the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. To our next game, we move on to the big game. The game. Michigan, Ohio State. Now, normally this is one of the most highly anticipated games of the entire year. I think Ohio State just completely dominates Michigan, I'll be honest with you. 20.5, yeah, we're going to take Ohio. We're taking Ohio State. We're taking the home team here. Michigan has been one of the worst Michigan teams we've seen, since, before Harbaugh got here, I'll be honest with you. Michigan 6-5, they are going bowling. They just dominated Northwestern last week. That's kind of the game they needed to have. But guys, we're not trusting Davis Warren to go into the shoe and beat Ohio State. It's just not going to happen, guys. Let's just be honest with ourselves. That's not happening this weekend. Their run game, they haven't had a 100-yard rusher since Khalil Mullings did it on September 28th against Minnesota. Ohio State looked great last week against Indiana. Obviously a poor first quarter, but they, got it together as the game progressed, and they ended up, of course, winning it by a lot against the Indiana Hoosiers. Michigan, they're not going to stand up. They're not going to stand a chance to Ohio State. Ohio State's going to be pissed off. They have not beat Michigan in 2 years. That's got to mean something. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy's gone. Blake Corum's gone. All those big stars that were beating Aiden Hutchinson. Oh, wait, Hutchinson's before that. But still, all those big stars that were haunting Ohio State the last couple of years, those guys aren't there anymore. This is Ohio State's time to absolutely dominate this football game. And again, I don't think it's particularly close. Ohio State's only loss this season is to the number 1 ranked team in the country in Oregon on the road in Eugene by 1 point. That's it. That's the only loss the Buckeyes have this entire year. Again, it means something beating Indiana by that much. I'm not going to understate how big of a victory that is. I think Indiana's great. I think Indiana's one of the top 5 teams in the country. Truly, they deserved that top 5 ranking they had last week, and obviously they're going to get dropped to like 11 or 10, which is ridiculous, but that's how good the Hoosiers are. They're undefeated for a reason. You can't be that good. You can't have that good of a record to not be that good, okay? And Ohio State handled them. Again, is that a different game in a neutral site? Possibly. I think it is. We'll never know. Ohio State's going to dominate Michigan. If they're able to do that to Indiana, what are they going to do to Michigan? I don't care. It's a rivalry game. I don't care. Again, it's the biggest rivalry in college football. That just means Ohio State's going to be even more motivated to win this football game, okay? If they were able to dominate Indiana and beat them by 23 points, what the hell are they going to do to Michigan? A Michigan team that's not going to be able to score. This is going to look like Ohio State-Purdue. I'm serious. 45-0 might be the final score of this football game. We are going with the Ohio State Buckeyes to dominate Michigan at home and to punch their ticket, obviously, to the Big Ten championship game. Ohio State versus Oregon, the rematch next week at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. Give me Ohio State to clinch their playoff spot to the victory here. Actually, they've already clinched. They're going to beat Michigan. Okay, they're going to beat Michigan. They're going to dominate. There's a reason they are a minus 2,000 favorite in this football game. Okay, let's move on. Vandy versus Tennessee. And yes, we are picking Vanderbilt to beat the Tennessee Volunteers. Here's your first big upset of the video and a game that will probably shake up the college football playoffs. Yes, we are taking Vandy to beat Tennessee. The game's at Vandy. We've seen Vandy upset really good SEC teams time in and time out this season, and here we have it. They're going to do it again. Diego Pavia has been upsetting these schools. Again, he upset Bama. He upset, I guess he upset Kentucky. They upset Auburn on the road. I know they've lost back-to-back games against USC, South Carolina, and Louisiana State, but here you go. One last hurrah for Vandy. They're going to win this game at home. Again, Tennessee's got to go from Knoxville to Nashville in this game, and we like the Volunteers to lose to Vanderbilt. They're 6-5. Obviously, Vandy will get a bowl game. We'll see them in the Outback Bowl probably. Or actually, no. We're going to see Tennessee in the Outback Bowl after they lose this football game. I don't trust in this Tennessee team, guys. A 56-0 win over UTEP, which somehow, puts them up in the rankings, doesn't mean anything to me. You beat UTEP. Who have they beat this season other than Alabama? But look at Alabama right now. Again, I don't think Tennessee's all that great. They have a great run game. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not going to dispute how good Dylan Sampson is with his 1,300 rushing yards. But this team's going to lose games if they make it to the playoffs. But they're going to lose this game because of the poor quarterback play of Nico. I'm serious. I think that's where they lose this game. I don't think they're going to be able to consistently throw the ball here on the Vandy Commodores. I don't think so. I think Vanderbilt's going to be able to get stops, and I think this scrappy Vanderbilt team, led by Diego Pavia, wins this football game, and Vanderbilt shakes up the college football playoffs again. It's hard going into Vandy and winning, man. Ask Alabama what happened. I'm serious. Ask Alabama. They played Texas to a close game. Texas only beat Vandy by 3 points, and Texas might be the most complete team in all of college football. It's a different team at home. I understand the South Carolina loss. I'm willing to bat a blind eye to that one. We'll forget about it. Look at their other wins at home. Bama, close game against Texas, beating VTech in overtime. Those are good wins. Again, Vandy's going bowling, but they will shake up the playoff race one more time as they will take down the Tennessee Volunteers, eliminating Tennessee from the postseason and just making it one less SEC team in the 12-team playoff. All right, to our next one. We stay with another big SEC game, and we think Clemson eliminates South Carolina. No, I'm not anti-SEC. Trust me, I'm not. The way I see these games, Clemson's not losing this game at home. Okay? Clemson, they had one bad game against Louisville, but since then they have won 3 in a row, given one was against the Citadel. They had a close game against Pitt. They won. They beat VTech. Okay, they've taken care of business. Here we go. Cade Klubnik and the guys are going to beat South Carolina. South Carolina is another team that's on a roll. Their only losses this year are LSU, Ole Miss, Bama. Given looking at them now, maybe South Carolina should have won those football games, but again, the Gamecocks have been on a run recently. This is a team that I didn't think was very good to start the season, but they have proved me wrong. Lenora Sellers has proved me wrong. I am sold on Lenora Sellers. He wasn't that great to start the season, but now again, Lenora Sellers has developed himself into a top, I would say, 25 quarterback in college football. I might be underplaying him a little bit, but that's how good Lenora Sellers is, at least as of late. Lenora Sellers has been playing lights out. He's a dual threat quarterback who can really throw the football, and Raheem Sanders has been a great running back for the Gamecocks as well. The problem is they go into Death Valley, and I don't think they come out of it. Truly, we're taking Clemson here, and yes, we've taken the home team in every single game we've talked about so far in the feature games, but we're going with the Clemson Tigers. Again, the Louisville game sucks, it does, but I think Cade Klubnik's able to get this team out of this one and win, okay? Last game, it was not Phil Maffa leading their team in rushing yards. It was Jay Haynes. Jay Haynes had a huge game for them, had 100-plus yards. Again, it was against the Citadel, so obviously, again, now their guys are playing the entire game. I believe Maffa played that game, right, if I'm not mistaken. Was Maffa out? No, Maffa played that game, yeah. No, Maffa played. Yeah, Clemson should be fine. They should be fine in this football game. Again, expect a close game that Clemson just kind of wins at the end of it. I think Clemson's got the better team. Again, I like Raheem Sanders and Lenora Sellers. I'm taking Cade Klubnik, though. I'm taking Dabo Sweeney and Clemson. I think they're the better team. And on top of that, they get this game at Death Valley at home. Everything to me kind of points in the direction that the Clemson Tigers are going to win this football game. So that's why we are going with Clemson to take care of business and beat the South Carolina Gamecocks at home. And now, don't look now, but Clemson is very alive in the postseason race. The winner of South Carolina and Clemson immediately inserts themselves back into the playoff hunt. I mean, they're already in it, but now this is for real now. The winner of this game could get in. I think it's Clemson, and we'll talk about their playoff hopes in a moment. Next up, we go on to Los Angeles, California. We have got the Southern California Trojans taking on Notre Dame. I understand why people think this game's going to be close, and I think it will be too. I think Notre Dame wins this game by a field goal. Again, yes, I have faith in Notre Dame a lot this season. I will be the first to admit that. I don't think they're as good as their record indicates. Sure, they beat Army, but at the end of the day, Army's still a G5 team. They beat Navy, G5 team. They beat some bad ACC schools this year, Florida State. Okay, they beat Louisville. I can't hate on that. They beat Purdue, who's horrible in the Big Ten. They beat A&M, who wasn't the team that we thought they were. Guys, are we going to forget Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois? Hear me out. Notre Dame is going to be ranked, I don't know, probably 5th in the next rankings. Their one loss is Northern Illinois. Their best win is Army. Indiana's one loss is at Ohio State. By the way, Notre Dame lost that game at South Bend, at home, against NIU. Indiana's only loss is to the number 2 team in the country on the road at the Shoe against Ohio State. And they're going to drop to, 10? They have the same record, but Indiana's one loss is Ohio State. And Notre Dame's one loss in Northern Illinois. Oh, Notre Dame's playing better recently. Well, no. If Notre Dame played Ohio State, the same thing would happen. Ohio State would blow out Notre Dame in Columbus. We're just forgetting about Notre Dame's one loss to NIU. We're forgetting about it. Sure, if they didn't lose to NIU, they'd probably be number 3 right now. But that loss has to mean something. I'm not saying Notre Dame doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. I think they do. If they beat USC, by the way, they don't have to play a conference championship game because Notre Dame's special, but still, if they beat USC, playoff team. I don't think they deserve to host a game, though, in South Bend, I'll be honest with you. With that loss to Northern Illinois, nope, I don't think they deserve it. I don't think they do. I'll just be honest with you. I think they deserve to be in the playoffs, but to host a playoff game, I don't think so. I don't care. They beat Army. That's great. Good for them. At the end of the day, I've been hyping up Army a lot this season, so I'm, kind of contradicting myself a little bit, but still, that's a G5 Army team that probably loses to Tulane in the American Championship game. That's your premier win all season. Oh, you're gonna ask, what's Indiana's premier win? Sure, it's Michigan. But still, look at the losses. Compare the losses. And Riley Leonard's been nothing special, obviously. This team is built off the back of the defense of Jeremiah Love. The defense is great. All right, I'm not going to deny that. And again, if Notre Dame were to play anybody in the country right now, I'd be hard-pressed to pick many teams against Notre Dame, right? Off the top of my head, the only teams right now I'd pick against Notre Dame, I'd pick Oregon to beat them. I'd pick Ohio State to beat them. I'd pick Texas to beat them. And those are the only three teams I'd be like, for sure, all right, definitely you're beating Notre Dame. Okay? But rankings-wise, they shouldn't be this high. I think they're in for a dogfight against USC. They're always in for tough games against USC. And USC is undefeated since they made the quarterback change from Miller Moss to Jaden Maivia. Maivia has got them bowl eligible after their win last week against UCLA, and it feels like USC is kind of putting it together right now. Again, I don't think it was Miller Moss's fault the reason they were losing, but I guess they just needed that switch, and it looks like Jaden Maivia is going to be the starter for the long haul here for the USC Trojans. Again, it looks like Miller Moss is going to hit the portal. That's fine. I think Notre Dame's in for a tough game here. I think Maivia, Woody Marks, they're going to give Notre Dame a tough out in this one. Again, this game is not in South Bend, it's in California. I do think Notre Dame wins, but I think USC is able to keep this game competitive. 7.5 feels like too big of a line for this game, considering the way USC's been playing recently. So give me the USC Trojans to cover. I will take Notre Dame to barely edge this one out. Hell, it might be a game-winning field goal that wins it for the Fighting Irish, but I do think they come out on top. Ultimately, though, give me USC to cover, but Notre Dame to win the football game, thus clinching their spot in the college football playoffs. To our next game, and it is the Iron Bowl. We go on to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We've got the Auburn Tigers going to Tuscaloosa to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Okay, we're taking Alabama to cover the 11.5 points. They're so much better than Auburn this season, guys. I don't care. Auburn beat Texas A&M last week in that overtime game. That's great. Good for them. That game was in Auburn. They got to go to Tuscaloosa. I think they're going to get handled in this game. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think Alabama's the way better football team. I know I picked Alabama a lot this season, and obviously last week it didn't go their way against Oklahoma. But you know what, guys? If Alabama puts on a statement, and hey, Kalen DeBoer and the guys and Jalen Milroe, they know this. If they put on a statement against Auburn and they win this game and they cover the spread, they are getting in the playoffs. It's that simple. A 3-loss out there, you thought the college football playoffs and ESPN were going to find a way to not put Alabama in the playoffs in a 12-team playoff? Come on now. Doesn't matter how many losses they have. They're going to put Alabama in the postseason. Come on. It's Bama. Bama's getting in, guys. We just need to come to this realization that Alabama's a playoff team. Okay? Regardless of what happens. The committee might put Alabama as the last team in just to make you think that it was close. But hear me out. They are not putting a 2-loss Clemson team over Alabama. I'll make the case they're not putting a 1-loss Indiana team over Alabama. They are not putting, obviously, 2-loss BYU in. They're not going to put a Arizona State team losing the championship game. They're not going to put a 2-loss Miami team in over Alabama. They're not going to do it, guys. They would not put Clemson in. They would not put a 2-loss SMU team in. No, they're going to put Alabama in as long as they beat Auburn. A 24-3 loss at Oklahoma literally means nothing to the committee, I'm telling you. It does not mean anything. They're going to point back to the LSU win on the road, and they're going to go back to the Georgia victory. I'm serious. Bama's getting in, guys. They're going to make the argument, Alabama beat a Big Ten school. They beat Wisconsin on the road. I'm sick of it. And again, I pick Alabama every week because, again, I'm picking winners. I think they beat Auburn. I think they kill them. But I'm just saying they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. But we just got to come to the realization that they're getting in. I mean, we had to have known they're getting in the playoffs when ESPN tweeted, there's a 30% chance Alabama gets into the postseason now. Can they get in? If there's a 30% chance, that means Alabama's getting in the playoffs. They're putting them in. As long as they beat Auburn, they get in. And I will talk about that again at the end of the video. I have a full bracket that I filled out. I will show you where I think everyone's going to end up come the postseason. But as long as Alabama beats Auburn, they're getting in, and they are not losing to Auburn. Peyton Thorne had the best game of his career last week against Texas A&M, a four overtime victory over A&M by 2 points. Again, Peyton Thorne looking to extend his collegiate career by one more game if they can beat Alabama and become bowl eligible. But again, they are not going into Tuscaloosa and winning this football game. They're not doing it. They're not going on the road and winning this game. Alabama will handle Auburn. Alabama knows what's at stakes. They know that they will be the only 3-loss team in the playoffs if they can just win this game. And guys, they're going to win it. Alabama's going to get the job done. I mean, look at the AP poll, guys. They're 13th on the AP poll with 3 losses. They're going to be even higher in the college football playoff poll. They might be, I don't think they're going to be ahead of Indiana still, but they'll be ahead of Clemson. It's stupid. It's stupid. Ole Miss is out. But if Ole Miss's name was Alabama, they'd be in the playoffs too. I mean, Alabama to beat Auburn, an undeserved playoff spot's coming up for Bama, but they are going to get in if they cover the 11.5 points. And honestly, just if they can beat Auburn and win the Iron Bowl, they're getting in the playoffs. It's that simple. Give me Bama. Next up, we go to the JRA Wireless Dome. We have got the Syracuse Orange versus the Miami Hurricanes. And yes, here we go. We're taking Syracuse. This feels like the ultimate trap game for Miami. Why? Syracuse plays lights out offense. They get into shootouts and they know how to win shootouts as well. That's how you beat Miami. You just outscore them, obviously. But still, Syracuse should be able to move the ball against Miami. This is going to be a back and forth shootout that I think Kyle McCord and Syracuse win. I've been on this for a couple weeks. I've been eyeing this game, and I still feel the same way. I'm still taking Syracuse to beat Miami. It's a really difficult game for the Hurricanes here. Playoffs on the line, ACC title game on the line. They have to win this game to get in. If not, Clemson gets into the ACC championship game. And I think Syracuse goes out here and beats Miami. I don't know. Miami gives up too many points, man. They give up too many points, and Syracuse just needs to find their way to a couple stops, and I think they win the football game. Syracuse has been playing their best ball as of late. Big victory on the road at Berkeley. A game where they beat UConn by 7 points, sure, but a game where Kyle McCord threw for 470 yards. He'll throw the ball 50 times a game. Syracuse only lost 3 games this season. Pitt on the road, BC on the road. I don't know how they lost to Stanford. That was ridiculous. It was so stupid. I think they beat Miami, though. I don't think Miami's able to stop the passing attack, I'll be honest with you. I don't think they're going to. Syracuse, they'll run the ball to confuse them, but I really think this passing game out of Syracuse is going to be good enough to win this football game. I think they stun Miami. Again, this feels so Miami too, right? You're a game away from basically getting in the playoffs. Actually, no, they're probably going to need to win the ACC to get in just because the SEC bias is going on. But still, this feels so Miami. You get into this spot, you're playing Syracuse on the road, you're 10.5-point favorites, and you lose. I truly think that's going to happen. I think Syracuse will win this game at home. I think Miami's going to choke. 10.5-point favorites. I think they lose it. Syracuse goes out there, throws the ball 50 times on him. I think Kyle McCord has a career day, puts up 400 yards in a victory to send Clemson to the ACC championship game and to send Miami out. Give me Syracuse to pick up a huge win and beat the Miami Hurricanes, going to 9-3 on the regular season. What a season for Kyle McCord after everybody wrote him off last year at Ohio State. Look at the year he put up this season. Sure, the turnovers kind of an issue at points, especially the Pitt game, but still, Kyle McCord's going to eclipse 4,000 yards. He'll likely get to 4,500. What a year for Kyle McCord and the Syracuse Orange. I think they go to 9-3 with a huge victory at home here against the Miami Hurricanes. To our next one, we move on to Tucson, Arizona, as we have the Arizona Wildcats at home against the Arizona State Sun Devils. I expect Arizona State to get the win, but I feel like in this rivalry game, I think it's just too close to rely on ASU to cover the 9 points. So we're taking Arizona State to win, but we're taking Arizona on the spread. I am. Noah Fifita needs to have a game. And I think, again, Fifita's been slightly better towards the end of the year. But Fifita and McMillan are going to show up for this game. It's on Fox. It's the biggest game they've played all year. They will show up for this football game. Trust me, they will. I think Arizona State wins. Scadaboo, is a great running back who, if somehow, some way they play Colorado in the Big 12 championship game, he's going to run all over them. Sam Leavitt has been great for this football team, too, at the quarterback position. You watch Arizona State's victory against BYU last week. A very good win for them. The week before that, beating Kansas State. I mean, Arizona State has really put together the victories in order to be in the spot where they are just a win away from the Big 12 championship game. Again, I think Arizona keeps it close. I think Arizona taps into that untapped potential they haven't, gone to so far this season. Again, Arizona was expected to be so much more than what they are right now. 4-7. Now, Arizona at the beginning of the season was one of the favorites to win the Big 12 with Fafita and with McMillan, considering the year they had last season. Obviously, they have failed, and they have not reached those expectations. That is obvious. But I think this is the game they play their best football this season. I'm serious. I think they play their best football this week. But ultimately, I don't think their best football is good enough to beat the Arizona State Sun Devils. I think ASU wins this game on the road at Tucson. I think they do. I like, again, what Sam Levitt's doing. And, Scadaboo is an absolute game changer on the ground. I think they run right over Arizona. We've seen Arizona give up big points all season long. Hell, last week at Texas Christian, they gave up 49 points. UCF scored 56 on them. Colorado scored 34. BYU, 41. Who's to say Arizona State's not going to do the same exact thing? Again, I think Arizona, the difference between those games and this game, I think Arizona is going to be able to somewhat keep up. Just because, again, it's a rivalry game. This is all you got into this one game. McMillan's last collegiate football game. I think the Wildcats have a night. But I just think Arizona State's able to pull away. Give me the Arizona State Sun Devils to win the football game. But I think Arizona will stay in it. That's why I think they cover the 9 points. But ultimately, give me the Arizona State Sun Devils to win and to advance to the Big 12 championship game. On to our next one. I had to include it. I just had to. I know they're 29-point favorites. They're going to beat Purdue. That's not really why I, allotted this time for Indiana. I'm sorry. I'll quickly go over Purdue. They suck. They've lost 10 games in a row. They beat the Sycamores of Indiana State to start the season. Then they lost to Notre Dame, Oregon State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Illinois, Oregon, Northwestern, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State. They suck, all right? That's all I have to say about Purdue. They do not stand a chance. Indiana's going to be pissed off, and Indiana's going to score 45 points in their head at least, and they're going to win the game. And again, Purdue's not going to score more than 10 points. Okay, got that out the way. Indiana's covering the 29 points. I'm not concerned about that at all, okay? I'm not concerned about Ryan Brown and Purdue, even though they've been better with Ryan Brown compared to Hudson Card. I get that, but still, no. I'm not concerned about the outcome of this football game. Indiana's a playoff team, guys. Indiana is undoubtedly a postseason team. Okay, I was wrong. They lost to Ohio State. Okay, that's one loss. That does not dictate your entire season, okay? One loss at the shoe does not dictate an 11-1 football team going into the playoffs. Give me this team to go to Athens and win. Give me this team to go to South Bend and win. And then, maybe they will get Ohio State again. That's a different football game in a neutral site. It's a different football game. That first quarter, excellent. I'm not gonna lie, I was going crazy. I was very tired because I stayed up and watched UFC the night before. But I was very tired. I was very excited. I was like half asleep watching this football game the first time around. I have rewatched it. But I was very excited in that first quarter. They get the stop at the end of the quarter. They score obviously on their first drive, and everything, of course, fell apart after. It's fine. It's okay. It's okay. They are dominating Purdue, and now we look on to the postseason. Okay? It's that simple. Beat Purdue, playoffs. They're not losing to the Purdue Boilermakers. Indiana has not won the old Oaken Bucket in, 3 years now? That's a disgrace. Tom Allen's gone, so it's fine. But that's a disgrace. Indiana hasn't touched the old Oaken Bucket in that long. They will beat the crap out of Purdue. This is all of the last 3 years bottled up into one game, and Indiana's going to take out their frustration for this one game. I understand a lot of these guys still aren't around from the Tom Allen era because Cignetti brought in a lot of his guys, but still, this is for the last couple years. The Indiana Hoosiers get this game in Bloomington, and they will absolutely dominate the Purdue Boilermakers. Also, Purdue's absolutely horrible, but still, Indiana, again, this is a statement victory they need to have. They absolutely have to have it. There's no doubt in my mind they're not going to win this football game. I mean, look at the odds. Indiana is a minus 6,000 favorite here in Bloomington against the Purdue Boilermakers, obviously. And again, I will save a little bit of my Indiana playoff talk until the end of the video because, again, we do have a specific time allotted for that at the end of the video after our final prediction, which is Kansas State and Iowa State. But I think Indiana should be fine in this football game again. Curtis Rourke should have a bounce-back game. I think if they play Ohio State again, if they play another top team again, which they will eventually at some point in the season, they're not going to make those mistakes on special teams. I think that's going to be, really, that's going to be fixed. And again, I think that was the worst game Indiana's played all season long. And that just means they're going to be better. I'm not off the Hoosiers just yet, guys. We're not off them at all, okay? We are completely fine with the Indiana Hoosiers. Everything is okay in Bloomington. They are going to beat Purdue, and the Indiana Hoosiers are going to go to the postseason, and they are going to make some noise. All the disrespect I'm hearing, Will Howard, lighting the lighting whatever, and and brushing out this foot. I mean, come on, what are we doing? You play on Ohio State, pal. One of these blue bloods, mocking Indiana. I mean, what are we doing? Just wait. Indiana will be back, and they'll be back in a couple weeks, okay? December 21st, just wait. Less than a month, Indiana gets their first playoff game. I hope it's in Bloomington. I personally don't think it's going to be in Bloomington. I hope it is, but it's fine. They'll go to Athens and win that football game. They will. Give me Indiana. And, Indiana lost to Ohio State. It saved me a trip back to Indiana, because I was considering going to the Big Ten title game if Indiana was in it. It saved me a trip. It's okay. It's on. Indiana's going to win this game. Obviously, they're going to dominate Purdue, and watch out, because it's playoff time, and the Hoosiers will get it done in the playoffs. Trust me. They will not make that many mistakes again like they did in the Ohio State game. They will be fine. Indiana will blow out Purdue, and then they look forward to the postseason. I think either Georgia or Notre Dame are the likely teams they will play. We'll see. Give me the Hoosiers. Take care of business and beat the Purdue Boilermakers and cover the 29 points as well. Okay, let's go to the Big Ten. We've got Oregon taking on Washington. I guess we're staying in the Big Ten, but Oregon and Washington, yeah, it's weird. This is a Big Ten game now. Oregon needs to just win this game to obviously make the playoffs or make the Big Ten championship game. No, they've already clinched it, actually. So actually, this game doesn't really mean much now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it really doesn't. Well, anyways, Washington beat Oregon last year, obviously. Much different circumstances, obviously, right? Michael Penix was the starting quarterback for Washington back then, and obviously, again, Bo Nix was the starting quarterback of Oregon. Much different circumstances, but it's okay. Oregon's going to win this football game. They are much better than Washington. I see there's a little bit of hype around UW's new quarterback and Dedmon Williams Jr. Obviously, they sat down Will Rogers and replaced him for Dedmon Williams. Williams plays a lot differently than Will Rogers. He's a much more mobile guy. He's a dual threat quarterback who can escape out the pocket and showed some really nice passes and really just skills all around in that win over UCLA a couple weeks ago. But I don't think in his second career start, his first career start, he's going to be able to go out there and beat Oregon. I just don't think that's possible. UW again goes on the road to Eugene for this football game, and we would expect Oregon to go out here and pick up the victory. I understand, again, Oregon has not looked great in the last couple weeks, right? Back-to-back weeks against Maryland and Wisconsin. They haven't been that impressive. Sure, they beat Maryland by 21 points, but trust me, again, I was at that football game. It was not that impressive of a win for the Oregon Ducks, and definitely that Wisconsin game last week in Madison wasn't that impressive either. But they should be able to beat this Washington Huskies team, which has been kind of disappointing this season. I said at the beginning of the year they were going to be a 6-6 team, and look where they are. Oregon, of course, they are the best team in college football right now. They are the only undefeated team in college football. Now, we are going to be on our way to an Oregon versus Ohio State Big Ten championship game next week, and that's going to be crazy. I'm so excited for that rematch in Indianapolis. If somehow Ohio State loses to Michigan, oh well, Indiana gets in the game. Oh no. But I think Oregon beats up here on Washington. Expect Dylan Gabriel to have a big night. Gabriel, again, has been the model of consistency so far this year for the Oregon Ducks. And Washington, sure, they're going to be starting Dedmon Williams for the first time, but I can't really trust anything that the Huskies have got going on. Jonah Coleman, great running back. He has eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark so far this season. But again, Dedmon Williams Jr. making his first career start against the number one team on the road in Eugene. Yeah, that's just difficult. Give me the Oregon Ducks to win. I do think they'll cover the spread. Again, Washington is going bowling, so this is not the last time we will hear from the Huskies this season. But Oregon already has their ticket booked next week to Indianapolis in the Big Ten championship game, and they will beat the Washington Huskies, and they will cover the 18.5 points they are getting as well. Let's go on now to maybe the biggest game of the week. Maybe it is. Texas on the road at College Station at Kyle Field against Texas A&M. The winner of this game goes to the SEC championship game. Wait, is Georgia in the SEC championship game? Oh, I'm tripping. Who's going to be in it? Oh, it is Georgia. I butchered that earlier. Excuse me. Georgia's already in. That's my fault. I messed that up earlier. I just totally forgot about the standings. If A&M wins, then is it A&M Texas? No, it's just A&M Georgia. Wow. Yeah, whenever this game gets in the SEC championship game. Okay, well, they're not going to drop Georgia because they lose the SEC championship game. So Georgia's still an automatic to make the postseason. Because Georgia's going to beat Georgia Tech, and obviously that's not an SEC game this week, but Georgia's in the championship game regardless, even if they do somehow lose to Georgia Tech this week. This game again determines who makes it to the SEC championship game. I don't think Texas loses this game. I really don't think they do. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think they're more than fine. I think Texas should be able to win this game at Texas A&M, considering the way A&M played last week. Again, A&M was in a great spot to make the SEC championship game prior, again, to their loss last week at Auburn. It can't happen. They lost a shootout at Auburn. I get it. They got their 100,000 plus fans at Kyle Field pumped up to win this football game here against the Texas Longhorns. I completely get that. I still think Texas is going to go out here and win this football game, though, and I think they'll do it pretty easily. Not easily, but I think they'll win it and cover the spread as well. 6 points. I trust Quinn Ewers to have a big game. He has not had a big game since really the Florida game. Obviously, the last huge game Texas played, it was against Georgia, and they lost it. Now, again, all eyes are back on Texas. I'm wearing a Texas jersey. It's a Kevin Durant jersey, but still, all eyes are on Texas to get the job done on the road, and I think they will deliver, especially the way A&M played last week. Losing to that Auburn team is not great. I don't trust in Marcel Reed to win this football game for A&M because they are going to need a lights-out performance out of Marcel Reed to go to the SEC championship game. I think Texas gets it done. I think, again, I've said it all year, and, I don't know if that's still the case considering watching Texas play and watching Ohio State play and watching Oregon play this season, but those are the three best teams in college football right now, okay? How you want to rank them? Right now, I'd go Oregon, Ohio State, Texas. I think Ohio State's going to beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, but again, we will get to that at a later date. But still, those are the three best teams right now in the country. Other than those two schools, though, Texas all year long has been the deepest team in college football. They have the most depth, they have the best talent, and it's really hard to beat this Longhorns team. I don't think A&M does it. I just don't think they do. Give me the Texas Longhorns to go into Kyle Field and win the football game, eliminating the Texas A&M Aggies from playoff contention. Again, hell, they shot themselves in the foot last week, losing on the road at Auburn. Texas picks up the scraps and wins the football game. Give me the Texas Longhorns to go on the road to A&M and win this game against the Aggies. Let's go on to our final feature game. It is Iowa State at home against Kansas State, and I just think the Wildcats play spoiler in Ames. I have been very against picking K-State all year long, but you know what? I saw them play Cincinnati last week, and I think that DJ Giddens runs all over Iowa State this week. Iowa State is not bad, but man, they have been rough the last 4 weeks. Losing to Texas Tech, losing to Kansas. Devin Neal, they had to deal with Devin Neal, they had to deal with Taj Bullock. Beating Cincinnati, good win, but then barely getting by the Utah Utes in Salt Lake City. I do not trust Iowa State to win this football game. Iowa State almost choked it last week. That would have been the most Iowa State thing to happen. Now, this is the full collapse for Iowa State. You get out that game in Salt Lake City, and what happens? You lose at home with a chance for the playoffs and the Big 12 championship on the line. Give me the Kansas State Wildcats to go into Ames and win. This isn't even an Avery Johnson thing. I don't think Avery Johnson's that great. I've said it time in and time out this season, but I think Avery Johnson does just enough as a game manager, as a facilitator for K-State to win this football game. And obviously, again, a lot of that's going to have to do with DJ Giddens running the football. We like K-State in this game, man. Give me Kansas State to go on the road and take care of business against this Iowa State team. Don't forget how poorly Iowa State has been playing. Sure, they beat Utah, but watch that entire game. Utah has one of the worst offenses in college football out of all the Power Fours, and they scored 28 points on Iowa State. Imagine what K-State's going to do to this team. I think, again, K-State and Iowa State have been overrated all year long, but I think Kansas State will get this done. Again, Iowa State lost to Texas Tech at home, lost to Kansas on the road. Not a bad loss, but Texas Tech at home, oh man. Give me the Kansas State Wildcats. Again, it's going to be off of a great performance from DJ Giddens, and that's why K-State will spoil the party. Iowa State out. Brigham Young back into the Big 12 championship game to take on Arizona in a rematch. So give me Iowa State to lose at home in Ames to the K-State Wildcats. Kansas State will cover the spread. It is 2.5, but we're going to take them straight on the money line. Plus 120 for Kansas State on the road in Iowa. Okay, we're not done yet. Here's the playoff picture. So let's look at it right now. We have got the number 1 seed right now, I think, is Oregon. Again, this is not what I would rank it as. This is what I think the committee is going to give us, okay? Number 1 seed, Oregon. It makes sense, obviously. They're undefeated. the winner of Oregon, Ohio State next week in the Big Ten Championship will get the number 1 seed. So that goes without saying. But right now, we have Oregon obviously number 1. Number 2 seed, Texas. We think Texas gets out of this game with Texas A&M. And on top of that, I think they beat Georgia in the SEC Championship game in their rematch, okay? So Texas would be number 2 right now. Number 3, Southern Methodist. We have Miami losing. Right now, we have SMU winning. Again, they'll get to play Clemson in the ACC Championship game. The way we have things right now, I think both those teams get in the playoffs. But I would not be surprised if Clemson gets punished for having to play in the ACC Championship game and they fall out because, again, of them playing and losing to Southern Methodist. I think there's a very good chance that the committee takes out the loser of SMU and Clemson in the ACC title game. Or Miami, for that matter, too. I don't know. Right now, though, again, this is not my final bracket. This is what I have going into the conference championship week. We have SMU at 3, and we have, again, Clemson at 10. We'll get to them later. Number 4, Boise State. They're not all that impressive. They beat Wyoming by 4 points. Their claim, obviously, this season is they have Ashton Genty, who might be Heisman, probably not, because it's going to Travis Hunter. And their other claim is, we lost to Oregon by 3 points. That's great. So that puts them at 4. They're going to be ranked higher than Arizona State right now. Arizona State, you see them slotted in at 12. They're the Big 12 champion. I don't think they're going to have a better ranking than Boise. So give me Boise at 4, and they will automatically go on to the New Year's Six Bowls, okay? So Boise's the 4 seed. We go to the 5 seed, Ohio State. Again, we talked about this earlier. The 5 seed's going to be the loser between Ohio State and Oregon. So again, that's yet to be seen, but whoever loses that football game will be able to play the 12 seed, which will likely be the Big 12 champion, okay? 6 seed, Penn State. I don't think they're good. Again, if they played Alabama here, which we have them slotted in as, I don't like Alabama this season, but I'd still pick Alabama to go into Happy Valley and win this football game, okay? Just would. But again, Penn State, the way that I think they're going to be ranked, they're going to be ranked 6th. Do I agree with it? No, but that's where they will be. 7, Notre Dame. Do I agree with it? No, but that's where they're going to be too. They're not going to jump Penn State, probably not. They're not going to fall below Georgia because Georgia's got 2 losses, and they're fine with Georgia playing at home anyway. And Georgia's going to play the SEC title game again. We'll see if that will drop them at all next week. But Notre Dame, they are saved by the fact that they don't have to play a conference championship game. They're not in the ACC. They're not in the Big Ten. So they get the number 7 seed. They're going to get a home game in South Bend, the same place where they lost to Northern Illinois earlier this season. But we have Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, at number 7 here in the college football playoffs. Number 8, Georgia. It's just kind of where they have to be. I think Indiana's going to fall. So I think Indiana with 1 loss is going to fall behind the 2-loss Georgia squad. Their losses are Ole Miss and Alabama. Both those losses don't look as great anymore. They did beat Texas, so that's why they're still here, and that's why they're number 8. Number 9, Indiana. I do think that's where they're going to put Indiana right now. I think so, especially with the big win over Purdue. With Tennessee falling out, of course, we think Tennessee's going to lose to Vandy. Obviously, if you want to say Tennessee beats Vandy this week, the simple fix is, I'm serious, this is how the rankings are going to work. Clemson's out, Tennessee's in. I don't care, Alabama's 11. They're going to find a way to get Alabama and Tennessee in if Tennessee can win. So then Clemson falls out. You put Tennessee at 10, Alabama at 11. Just the committee wants Alabama in the playoffs. But if Tennessee loses at Vandy, they're going to send them out. So if Tennessee wins, they're going to still find a way to keep Bama in. Clemson's just out. Miami obviously still out as well. So then we put Clemson and Bama in. Now, it gets tricky if we say Miami wins. We'll get to that again if they can actually beat Syracuse. I feel pretty good with Syracuse beating Miami. I'm serious. I think they can really win that football game. So again, that leaves with Indiana at 9. I don't think they'll fall behind both Clemson and Alabama. So Indiana 9, Clemson 10. I mean, it goes without saying, I guess. Again, if Tennessee's able to win, I don't think Clemson's in, but for now they will be in. I think Clemson will get punished by having to play the ACC title game. Again, the loser of Clemson SMU, I don't think makes the playoffs. For now, they're in. But again, this is not a final bracket. This is what I think will happen going in to the conference championship week. I only think one ACC team's getting in, no matter who it is. SMU, Miami, Clemson, only one ACC school is getting into the postseason. I think right now, again, we have both SMU and Clemson, but that will not remain the case going into the playoffs. Number 11, Alabama. They're going to find a way to put Bama in. With 3 losses, they will put Alabama in the playoffs. Again, it makes it a lot harder on the committee to put Alabama in if Tennessee does not lose to Vanderbilt. Or if Miami doesn't lose to Syracuse. Personally, those are just the way I see those 2 games going. Miami having to go on the road to Syracuse, tough game. Tennessee having to go on the road against Vandy, a team that's played everybody tough so far this year in the SEC. I think both those teams lose, and yes, it does find a way for Alabama to weasel their way in the playoffs. Even with Miami and Tennessee winning, I think they will still find a way to put Alabama in the playoffs. Hear me out. Clemson out, Indiana out. Indiana's not, I don't think Indiana's going to get in. I think they will put a 3-loss Bama team over Indiana. I'm serious. So if if Tennessee and Miami win, wait, let me think. Maybe Indiana would still be in. Because Tennessee would then be in for Clemson. Well, Clemson's going to be out regardless. The loser, only one ACC school is getting in. That's number 3. Okay? So Clemson's out. Yeah, no, they'd still screw Indiana out. No, because only one of Miami and SMU are getting in. Yeah, no. Okay, so the only variable that's going to change here, I only think, again, number 3, that can either be Clemson at the end of the playoffs, like the end of this regular season, after the conference championship games. The number 3 can either be SMU, Clemson, Miami. That's the ACC winner. Clemson at 10, that's fool's gold right now, because they're not going to stay that way, because they're going to punish the loser of the ACC title game. They just are. So Clemson's going to drop out. So that will get replaced by Tennessee, and then, yeah, the other ACC school's not going to get in. So actually, no, I do think Indiana's going to get in. I do think they're going to. So Alabama's 11, though. Alabama feels like kind of a lock. Even if Tennessee wins, they'll put Bama in. They're just not going to put two ACC schools in. Ole Miss losing puts Alabama back in the playoffs. Number 12, Arizona State. We would have them going to the Shoe to take on the Buckeyes in Columbus. Really tough game for them, not gonna lie. But Arizona State right now looks like they're the favorites to win the Big 12. They will be higher ranked than Tulane at the end of the season, so they will be the 5th conference champion in. Again, we have them right now playing Brigham Young in the Big 12 championship game. That could be Colorado, could be Iowa State, could be those are the, I guess, isn't there a slight chance West Virginia could get in the Big 12 championship game? I don't know if that was just a joke I saw on Twitter or not, that WVU could still get in. Regardless, I think that everyone need to lose. But still, Arizona State will get in. I think they're going to win the Big 12, and they'll be higher ranked than Tulane, who I think is going to win the American Conference. So the matchups goes as follows: Arizona State versus Ohio State, Indiana versus Georgia, Bama versus Penn State, Clemson versus Notre Dame. If you want me to fill this out very quickly, okay, Arizona State, Ohio State, we'd have Ohio State beating Boise. Again, I don't think the playoffs are going to stay this way, but if the playoffs started today, this is how I'd predict it. They're not going to end up this way because, again, conference championship games are going to F everything up, okay? But if you want to give my prediction for this, Ohio State beats Arizona State. They play Boise. Indiana plays Georgia. I think Indiana beats Georgia. I think Bama beats Penn State. And I think Notre Dame, no, give me Clemson to beat Notre Dame. I'm serious. Clemson will beat Notre Dame. Okay? Ohio State will beat Boise State. Oregon will beat Indiana. I hate to say it. They will. We'll see. Once we get to that actual spot, I'll determine that. Right now, I'd have Oregon beat Indiana. Hear me out. I have SMU beating Alabama. And then I'd have Texas beating Clemson. So we get SMU versus Texas. We get Oregon versus Ohio State. I'd take Ohio State to beat Oregon, and I'd take Texas to beat SMU. So I'd have Ohio State versus Texas in the NCAA or in the national championship game, and right now, I would pick Ohio State. That's just if I had to say it right now, things are going to change. My perception is going to change and everything as well. But right now, if you had to press me on a national champion here in 2024, 2025, it would be the Ohio State Buckeyes. But everything's going to change because I think Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten, so they would be the 1 seed, and Oregon would be the 5 seed instead. And that will change things up as well. So, again, for now, we have Ohio State winning the entire thing. And next year, I'm going to do this every single week just so we can follow this for the rest of the year. So next year, we'll do that. But, again, I kind of forgot about this until the end of the year. So, again, right now we have Ohio State, but again, we'll see how that changes next week after the conference championship game. So, folks, thank y'all for watching our Week 14 college football predictions here on the channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. This is a long video, so make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy. We'll be back next week again for the college conference championships. We'll be back for the conference championships predictions as well. Again, regular season over now, on to the conference championships. Just want to thank you guys for the support every single week here. For the college football season, we've had a lot of fun making these videos every single week. We'll be back next year for sure, but obviously we still got a lot of college football left to play. We got bowl games, we got a lot of bowl games. We've got the Army-Navy game, we got the conference championship games, and the playoffs as well still to come. So, folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching. At Mamba, forever.